Couldn't I am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it won't go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it won't go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter, baby's got corrosion now, corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Baby does got it. Yeah. Good morning. It is Friday, the 10th of January. We're almost to the middle of January. Why at this time? Time's doing this. But we're not having fun. Time flies when you're having fun, but time also flies when you're not having fun. And I don't know, we might be having fun this morning. Probably not. It's a lot of bleak news, so have as much fun with that as you can, psychopaths. Good morning. We got Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show in the house. Good morning, sir. He's surveying the planet right now. A little bit of snow in Chicago. Can't get down here yet, but maybe pretty soon. It's a little bit of a dusting out there that seems to be accumulating. So, we got Miguel in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Happy Friday to you. Miss Jacqueline, good to see you. Yeah, that is the official house band of the morning show here is Fappy Tweed. Great band out of North Mississippi. A lot of that music's from the 90s, so a lot of that's older than some of you kids out there. But it's still good music. Speaking of North Mississippi, my old buddy Captain Peon in the house. Yes, he and I used to be the Monkey Boys. We still are, but we're just not performing as of right now. So we're kind of like Lewis and Martin doing our own separate things right now. I think he's got a reunion show for his radio show this weekend. So looking forward to that. Who else is in the mix? We've got Willie Bragg Show. What's up, Willie? Good to see you, my friend. No show tonight, right? You say you got a new schedule. He says he's doing like Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays or something like that. Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Is that right? You just let us know in the comments there. Willie, appreciate you. And Kate, I think Kate stopped by. She's getting her coffee right now. Probably getting ready for the show. So that's all right now, but I'm sure some more will make their way in. Sorry, this dry weather gives you a little bit of a dry itch. A little bit. Yeah, so want to let everybody know, obviously, if you haven't been watching the show, we've been shouting out our pal Chanda Masta. She's been dealing with lung cancer and has been going through treatments for that. And it's not cheap, folks. I think everybody in the space knows that. She's got a GoFundMe link down below in the description if you'd like to donate or share out the link. Either one would be really appreciated. And you know, she's getting what she needs. Hang on a second, the hat's a little off there. I told you OCD. She's getting the treatment she needs, but like I said, it's pricey, and every little bit helps too. And this is going out to our buddy Kevin. This is kind of going into our news block here. As some of you may or may not know, Kevin over at Black Bear News, he's out there in California. He lives out there, and he has been caught up in these house fires or these wildfires that's been going on out there. I believe, and this is him right here out in front of his place. Let's see, and he could tell us briefly what happened.
Guys, what you are looking at is what is left of my house, which is nothing. And the Black Bear News studio is no longer.
Yeah, so that's our buddy Kevin from Black Bear News. I also have information down below in the description there. If you want to donate to help, his house is gone, and a lot of his stuff is gone. He could use all the help he can get too. I put his donation links in the description down below as well. That's for all platforms. So if you're watching this on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, or Facebook, if you'd like to help our friend out, we appreciate it. A lot of people going through some misery there in LA. Yeah, as the fire is now getting towards Los Angeles proper. Normally, you would see this out in Santa Monica, out more towards Malibu, the brushy areas, where there are houses, but now the fire is starting to spread closer to LA proper. So let's get into it. LA fires burned 10,000 structures as a new blaze is spreading. I know, Miguel. It's like it sucks when it happens to other people that you don't know, but when it happens to people you do know, it kind of hits home extra a little bit there. So look at all that destruction, man. And then that one blue van kind of sticking out of the picture there. This is in Malibu, by the way. This is so crazy. 2 wildfires in the Los Angeles area have killed at least 10 people and burned some 10,000 homes and structures, local officials said, as a new blaze prompted the evacuation of thousands of more residents. The latest blaze, the Kenneth Fire, broke out in West Hills, a neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley, yesterday afternoon as fire crews were still battling to bring the Palisades and Eaton fires under control. And the Eaton fire is the one where Kevin, where his house was. Yeah, so his link tree is down below in the description as well if you'd like to help him out. I think the van showed up later, Miguel. That's probably what it was. Hey, Bella, what's up? Good to see you. Good morning to you. So we're expecting this fire to rapidly spread due to high winds, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass said. And Los Angeles also deals with those Santa Ana winds, that they're winds that come out of the desert. And when they do come out of the desert, they have no resistance in the desert. So that wind comes powerful and it whips through those mountains and hills into Los Angeles, and it can knock you over. And it's definitely not good for fires. So at least 10 deaths have been reported as of yesterday, up from 7 earlier in the day, according to Los Angeles County Department of Medical Examiners. The latest evacuation orders came as officials confirmed that the Palisades and Eaton fires had each destroyed more than 5,000 structures, which includes homes as well as other property such as cars and sheds. The 2 fires have consumed more than 12,000 hectares or 30,000 acres of land between them, according to the State Wildlife Agency CAL FIRE. 3 smaller fires are also burning in and around Los Angeles. LA County Sheriff Robert Luna earlier told a news conference that he expected the then reported death toll of 7 to rise, and it did. It looks like an atomic bomb dropped in these areas. I don't expect good news, and we're not looking forward to those numbers, he said. Nearly 180,000 people are under evacuation orders due to the fire, with another 200,000 residents subject to evacuation warnings, according to LA County Sheriff's Department. More than 285,000 residents are without electricity in Southern California, according to poweroutage.us, which tracks outages nationwide. while water and sewage infrastructure across the area has suffered extensive damage. Dozens of blocks have been reduced to ash in the affluent communities of Malibu and Pacific Palisades since the start of the fires on Tuesday amid winds of more than 70 miles per hour. Like I said, those Santa Ana winds, they do whip up. The National Weather Service had warned that winds are expected to pick up yesterday evening, but dropping earlier. After dropping earlier in the day, celebrities including James Woods, Paris Hilton, and Billy Crystal are among those who have lost their homes in the fires. There are areas where everything is gone. There isn't even a stick of wood left. It's just dirt, said Barbara Bruderlin, head of the Malibu Pacific Palisades Chamber of Commerce. Al Jazeera's Rob Reynolds said the extent of the destruction was hard to fathom. The hillsides are burned. There's a high school that has been heavily damaged. You can see houses where there's nothing left but the chimney remaining, he said. It goes on literally for kilometer after kilometer, block after block after block. Authorities have not determined the cause of the fires, but are investigating various possible sources of ignition. While lightning is the most common cause of wildfires in the U.S., according to the National Fire Protection Association, there were no reports of lightning in the vicinity at the time the blazes began. It was probably somebody threw a cigarette butt out the window. That's usually how it starts. Other common causes include intentionally lit fires and power lines. Yeah, some of these fires in the past were started by just campfires in national parks that weren't put out. California Governor Gavin Newsom said the state's National Guard was being deployed at the request of the LA County Sheriff's Department to assist with rescue efforts and help keep order amid reports of looting. We're throwing everything at our disposal, including our National Guard service members, to protect communities in the days to come. They won't protect it from fire, but they will protect it from looting. And to those who would seek to take advantage of evacuated communities, let me be clear, looting will not be tolerated. U.S. President Joe Biden said the federal government would cover 100% of the cost of California's recovery efforts for the next 180 days. I told the governor local officials spare no expense to do what they need to do and contain these fires, Biden said after finding out there was Israelis and Ukrainians living there. Oh, wait, no. Biden said after meeting with senior advisors at the White House. That's the only reason why I would think he would get, throw that much money at it, is if they thought Israelis or Ukrainians were there. Biden said he hoped that the incoming administration of Trump, who has heavily criticized Newsom and Bass over their handling of the disaster, would continue to provide the state the assistance it needs. Biden urged Congress to provide aid to cover the damage once a full accounting of the devastation had been done. Why do you not work when I want you to work? There you go. So how big are these California wildfires and why have they spread so quickly? Like we said, at least 10 people have been killed and some 10,000 homes and buildings have been burned in wildfires across multiple parts. There's also one, there is the Sunset Fire, which is near Hollywood. So they have that cordoned off from Hollywood Boulevard up to Mulholland Drive, I think, and then from what was it? It was the 101 in the east and somewhere in the west. I can't remember where it was, but it's a big chunk of northern Hollywood right there that normally the fire never makes it over the hills, but this time it's making it over the hills. Okay, so the first fire started in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood at 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday. That's according to California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. They were trying to figure out the exact trigger for the worst firestorm in recent memory, but a combination of factors might have created conditions optimal for a fire. California generally experiences wildfires during June and July, and they can run until October, but the blaze has defied the calendar this year, erupting in January, the coldest of the winter months. Southern California, the site of the fires, has been experiencing drought conditions and has not seen significant rainfall for months. So that helps. California in January is so weird. It can be the wettest month on record, or it could be the driest month on record. It's just so insane how that works. The U.S. Drought Monitor's latest map shows that as of December 31st last year, 40.9% of California is drought-free. Last year around this time, 96.65% of California was drought-free. So you're talking about almost 60% of the state is dry as a bone. Climate change has contributed to an increase in the frequency, season length, and burned area of wildfires, according to a report by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So dry conditions aided by Santa Ana winds, dry and hot winds common in the area, most likely caused the wildfires. The conditions provided it, but what actually caused the literal spark? One of our guys from Fappy Tweet is in Sherman Oaks, so he's okay. Okay, good. I didn't know he lived out here. I lived out in California. That's cool. The dry desert air moves from the interior of the region towards the coast and offshore. It contributes to wildfires because it significantly reduces humidity in the environment due to its dry nature. So you're getting this dry desert air coming in, and it's drying out the air once it gets to LA proper. This causes vegetation to become very dehydrated and susceptible to fire. Under these conditions, any spark can start a fire, be it from a cigarette butt, vehicle, or a power line. And it could have been a down power line too. That's what they were saying in Hawaii, but we all know that was a space laser. Gusts of up to 100 miles per hour were recorded at higher elevations on Tuesday night, according to AccuWeather meteorologist Danielle Erisman. Well, good for you, Danielle. Besides dry vegetation, Los Angeles has other flammable materials, such as low-hanging power cables and wooden telephone poles. Santa Ana winds have been associated with extreme wildfires in California in the past, including the Woolsey fire back in 2018, which killed 3 people and razed 1,600 structures. Experts, however, warn that weather conditions are dire this year. We really haven't seen a season as dry as this one, following a season as wet as the previous one. All of that extra abundant growth of grass and vegetation followed immediately by a wind event of this magnitude while it's still so incredibly dry. Daniel Swain, a climate scientist at University of Cal, Los Angeles, that's UCLA, said on a live stream on Monday. So the fire started in Palisades on the coast there. And from there, the blaze spread rapidly to other neighborhoods. The second fire broke out in Eaton, like we were telling you about, our buddy Kevin over there, at about 6 p.m. on Tuesday. A third fire, called the Hearst Fire, also broke out the same day in Sylmar in the San Fernando Valley, northwest of Los Angeles. So that's over the Hollywood Hills, north of the Hollywood Hills there. 5 more fires broke out in California on Wednesday. The Lydia, the Sunset, and Woodley fires in Los Angeles, the Olivas fire in Ventura, and the Tyler fire in Riverside, which is more inland Empire as you're going east. On Friday, it was reported that a new fire, the Kenneth fire, had also broken out in West Hills, a neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley. So we just told you about that. The extraordinary winds are the main driver, literally, said Stephen Pine, emeritus professor at Arizona State University School of Life Sciences. These are near hurricane force winds. 100-mile-an-hour winds that's, if you've ever been in a hurricane, you know what I'm talking about. There is no firepower on Earth capable of stopping the flames. They quickly blow past any initial responses fire crews can make, and they will continue until the winds cease or they run out of fuel. In other words, once they hit the ocean. And so they'll build these trenches and breaks to stop the fire, but the wind is so potent that it's blowing the flames over these trenches that they usually would stop them. A primary mechanism for fire spread is not a tsunami of flame, it's a blizzard of embers. The embers can kindle buildings well ahead of the flaming front. The structures then become a primary fuel, and the fire spreads as an urban conflagration, leaping from structure to structure. So here's a map of some of the blazes that's going on. So Hollywood signs right here. This is the Sunset Fire I was telling you about. And I actually used to work around in this area too. Right there. This is Griffith Park. That's where the sign is. It's very close to the observatory. So like we said, there's been a lot of area burned. In Palisades, at least 50,000 acres. In Eaton, 34,000. About 2,000 in Hearst. About 860 in Lydia, and 2,300 in Kenneth. And here's some of the aerial images too. Look at that, just crazy. Just boop, just like somebody took a pencil eraser. That's the Pacific Coast Highway, by the way. And look at all that smoke, too. That's another thing they have to worry about, too, is the smoke coming from these fires, too. This is Altadena. This is around Pasadena. So Altadena before, and then Altadena on the right there. The containment percentage of a fire refers to the perimeter or containment line established around the fire by firefighters to prevent it from spreading further. A containment line can be any physical barrier around the fire, such as a shallow trench dug into the dirt. The fires in California are barely contained, which means there is no prevention from them spreading further. Palisades, Eaton, and Sunset fires are all 0% contained, while the Hearst fire is 10% contained and the Lydia fire is 40% contained. Woodley, Olivas, and Tyler fires are 100% contained according to Cal Fire. So that's good. At least those are contained, but they still have to deal with these others. The scale of the fires has gotten out of hand, according to local firefighting department. California Governor Gavin Newsom said in an X post on Wednesday, we call it the tweeters, that 7,500 firefighting personnel are currently on the ground. U.S. President Joe Biden canceled an upcoming Italy trip to focus on the federal response to the fire. Biden said he has provided 5 air tankers and 10 firefighting helicopters. However, the strong winds have hindered aerial rescue efforts. And apparently there's a water shortage, too, there to throw that into the mix. LA County Fire Chief Anthony Marone told a news conference that firefighters from 6 other states, including Nevada, were being rushed to California. Additionally, 250 engine companies with 1,000 personnel were being moved from Northern California to Southern California. But resources are running thin. Water shortages in the Palisades have dried out some 5 hydrants. Janice Quinones, the chief executive of the LA Department of Water and Power, told a media conference that Pacific Palisades depends on 3 tanks containing about 1 million gallons of water each. Quinones added that the demand for water to extinguish fires at lower elevations was creating difficulty in refilling water tanks at high elevations. The LA Fire Department has issued evacuation orders for Hollywood, Hearst, and the Palisades. The fires are not over, and they won't end until the winds die down, not just the Santa Ana winds over and down the mountains, but the local winds that will move into the Santa Ana's retreat, said Pine. When and if winter rains finally arrive, they could lead to hillside erosion and debris flows, and that means landslides as well. That's what the fire does, too. When the fire kills the vegetation, the vegetation which has roots in the soil fail to hold the soil, and that's when you see on these mountains and hillsides a lot of landslides. It happens with a lot of rain, too. Same thing. Loosens up the soil. So winds have weakened, but we're expected to pick up today. These will not be as intense as the winds that intensified the fires on Tuesday and Wednesday. The winds are predicted to subside later today, and red flag fire warnings will be removed by later this evening. However, the fires will remain difficult to contain. Post-fire cleanup will be messy, long, and expensive. Contemporary houses are filled with plastics, synthetics, and electronics that can be toxic. Rebuilding will be a nightmare. It's hard to see how insurance can pay. Even state-supported supplements will fall short. That's funny you mentioned that, because amid the LA Inferno, home insurers under fire for policy cancellations. Now, we've seen this during hurricanes, where they say, oh, well, you need to have this kind of insurance, and, well, you're not covered under this kind of insurance. Same thing with fires now, as they're becoming more of a regular thing than a once in a while thing. This is from Common Dreams. As deadly wildfire incinerated more than 1,000 homes and other structures in LA County this week, insurance companies are sparking outrage for having recently canceled homeowners' policies across California, including some of the areas hit hardest by the current blazes. More than 1,000 homes, businesses, and other buildings have burned in the Palisades, Hearst, and Eaton fires. More than that now, the latter of which has killed 2 people. Fueled by fierce Santa Ana winds and extraordinary dry conditions, all 3 fires were at zero containment as of yesterday afternoon, or of Wednesday afternoon. So authorities have issued mandatory evacuation orders for more than 80,000 residents, more than that now. The fire chief said that a high number of people who didn't evacuate suffered serious injuries. Hundreds of thousands of area residents are also without power. So yeah, and these are just some of the numbers that these numbers that we just updated them a few minutes ago. Amid increased extreme weather events driven by the climate emergency, insurance companies have faced criticism for canceling policies and pulling out of states with elevated wildfire or hurricane risk. State Farm, one of California's largest insurers, announced last year that it would not renew 30,000 home insurance policies throughout the state, including at least hundreds in areas affected by the current wildfires, explaining that the move was meant to avert a financial failure that would detrimentally impact the entire market. Other insurance companies have taken similar action, leaving their customers scrambling to find coverage. Michael DeLong, Research and Advocacy Associate at the Consumer Federation of America, told Common Dreams that while climate-driven extreme weather has made many areas riskier to insure, insurance companies are also canceling policies because they're trying to take advantage of the situation of rising risks and rising costs to weaken consumer protections. They've been waging a campaign against Proposition 103, a ballot initiative that got passed in the late 1980s that, among other things, puts in place a lot of consumer protections about insurance, he added. This has been a big deal for consumers, and it's helped keep rates down, but insurance companies really hate these consumer protections and have been trying to weaken them. In a Wednesday interview with Common Dreams, Jamie Court, president of the LA-based group Consumer Watchdog, noted that under Prop 103, we could challenge rate hikes, and we saved $1 billion by challenging rate hikes that were too high last year. However, advocates say that California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara's new sustainable insurance strategy will make it harder to challenge rates and lacks transparency and public input. DeLong said Lara is allowing the net cost of reinsurance to be passed on to the consumers. Reinsurance is an arrangement in which insurance companies transfer risk to another insurer to mitigate damages. Until a few weeks ago, California's regulations didn't allow the cost of reinsurance to be passed on to consumers, and now they do, DeLong explains, so that's probably going to drive up costs for consumers. The commissioner and the department say it's going to make the insurance industry more stable. We're kind of skeptical of that. Yeah, I would imagine you would be. Another reform that he's done is allowing the use of catastrophe models in insurance, DeLong added, referring to a risk management tool that helps insurers assess potential financial impacts of disasters. Every other state allows insurance companies to use them. California did not until recently. Catastrophe models can be helpful and useful. The problem is that many catastrophe models aren't that good. They're based on inaccurate or incomplete information, and they don't have any transparency. Court also decried the lack of transparency in catastrophe models, which he said can say anything they want, and then we have to pay the rate. He also criticized Lara's proposal to allow insurers to hike rates in exchange for a purported commitment to cover more properties in wildfire areas. Lara said last year that insurance companies will write no less than 85% of their statewide market share in wildfire-distressed areas. However, court cautioned that Lara is assuming that the companies are actually going to increase their footprint in wildfire areas. When you look at the details, there are these big loopholes, he said. Insurance companies have to commit to 85% wildfire area saturation within 2 years, or they can do 5% more than they're doing now. So if they're at 0%, they can go to 5%. This is complete bullshit. As coverage becomes more difficult to obtain, hundreds of thousands of California homeowners have turned to the state's FAIR plan, an insurer of last resort, which has more than doubled the number of policies issued since 2020. If the FAIR plan is the only thing you can do, take that, DeLong said. In the meantime, you can reach out to the Department of Insurance and let them know that you want them to protect consumers and reject excessive rate increases. Yeah, good luck with that. You can also try mitigation measures to reduce risk, like clearing brush around your home, improving your roof so it's a Class A roof, which means it's very difficult to catch on fire. You can take measures to prevent embers from starting fires on your property, he added. The problem is that all of that costs money, and not everyone may be able to afford that. California has recently started some proposals to provide grants to consumers to undertake these measures, and these should be expanded even more. Yeah, but how much red tape and how many loopholes do they have? There is some good news, DeLong said. The California Department of Insurance is working on a public catastrophe model, one that would have opportunities for input from consumers that would be based on data that's fair and open. However, that's going to take at least a couple of years to get off the ground, he added. So, yeah, 2 more years of this bullshit. Court concurred we're a long way from that, and it's not even going to be something that companies have to use. It's something that would be supplemental, he said, of the public model. I think it's giving lip service, but I think it's the right direction. It just needs to be much more aggressive. What is a common theme that you see in all these, like, wars and tragedies and, natural and unnatural disasters? The common denominator you find is greed. And to answer your question, Miguel, that's how they can get away with all of this, because they have greedy buddies in the government who are paid off by other greedy people. It's corruption layered on top of corruption, layered on top of corruption. It's kind of like a 7-layer dip, only instead of it tasting delicious, it's corruption, which is not tasty. So if you're petty, you might enjoy this. Hunter Biden's home destroyed in the California wildfire. One wasn't his, but a luxury property rented by U.S. President Joe Biden's son Hunter has been incinerated in the wildfire currently ravaging the Los Angeles area, the Daily Mail reported yesterday. And to be fair, that house probably should have burned down a long time ago with as much crack rock as that dude smokes. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has blamed much of the devastation on Biden and California Governor Gavin Newsom. The Palisades fire began as a small brush blaze in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood on Tuesday morning. By Wednesday, however, it had been fanned by hurricane-force winds into a fast-moving conflagration that tore through the affluent neighborhoods between Santa Monica and Malibu. We told you all the information there. Among the buildings destroyed is a $4 million property in Malibu that was rented by Hunter Biden and his wife, Melissa Cohen. The British tabloid published pictures of the property burned to the ground with only 2 stone chimney stacks still standing. Biden was quoted as saying, "Thank God we got the crack rock out, fuck the dog." I'm paraphrasing. The president's son had rented the property for $15,800 per month and used the idyllic space to work on his paintings. Like George Bush works on his paintings. Also destroyed was a neighboring house rented by Hunter's Secret Service detail at a monthly cost to the U.S. taxpayer of $16 large a month just for the Secret Service. Speaking to reporters on Thursday morning, Biden addressed the damage to his son's home, although he did not confirm whether it had been burned down. My son lives out here, and his wife, they got a notification yesterday their home was probably burned to the ground. Today it appears that maybe it's still standing, but I'm not sure. But I'm not sure is probably the most true words Biden has ever spoken. So like we said, Biden is not the only famous name affected by the blaze. Paris Hilton and Billy Crystal, we told you them. John Goodman and Anthony Hopkins are among dozens of celebrities whose houses have been burned to the ground, according to media reports and social media posts from the stars themselves. This is Anthony Hopkins' home, which is now just wood, sticks. Paris Hilton. That's all the smoke coming from LA. So the hydrants ran dry on Wednesday. And Trump blamed the water shortage on Newsom, claiming environmental concerns he cited when refusing to sign an order that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snowmelt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California. So the incoming president's also pointed the finger at Biden, accusing the president of channeling money away from FEMA toward environmental projects, a claim that has been disputed by liberal media outlets. And Karen Bass was also criticized for embarking on a trip to Africa over the weekend amid warnings about an incoming windstorm at home. Kind of like, what's his name, going down to Mexico when the hurricane showed up. Who's the Texas senator? You know what I'm talking about. Politicians and developers also blasted her for slashing the budget of the fire department by $17.6 million last year. She raised the police department's budget, by the way. So, and I don't really care what Elon Musk thinks about her. So, wild shit going on in Cali right now. And like we said, these fires have been just horrific. You saw the ones last year. And the fucking fire tornadoes, Jesus Christ. But this is like, now it's pushing into LA proper. And now you're going to start seeing a lot more people paying attention to this kind of thing. Especially those who failed to keep enough water on hand to put the fire out. Oops. So Trump couldn't get out of his sentencing today, so that happened in New York. Breaking news. When news breaks, get the super glue out. You can probably fix it. Donald Trump has been sentenced to what's known as an unconditional discharge. That's what my doctor told me after I had that threesome. Wait, what? For his conviction over hush money payments made to an adult film actress, making him the first former U.S. president ever sentenced for a crime. What's up, John? Good to see you, my man. Justice Juan Merchan delivered a decision today after the U.S. Supreme Court rejected an attempt by Trump's legal team to delay sentencing before the inauguration on the 20th. And here we go, folks. An unconditional discharge means that Trump's conviction will appear on his permanent record, but he will not face imprisonment, a fine, or probation. But it'll appear on his permanent record. Uh-oh. Anything but that. I'd rather go to jail than have a mark on my record. Trump, who previously served as president from 2017 to 2021, was found guilty in late May of last year on 34 counts of falsifying business documents related to hush money payments made to Stormy Daniels, among other things. The U.S. president-elect has denied any wrongdoing and said he plans to appeal his conviction. So Trumpy got an unconditional discharge. He's going to see his doctor later about it, too. Meanwhile, New Mexico, the Supreme Court there strikes down local abortion restrictions. The New Mexico Supreme Court yesterday ruled against several local ordinances in the state that aim to restrict distribution of the abortion pill. In a unanimous opinion, the court said the ordinances invade the legislature's authority to regulate reproductive care. Our legislature granted to counties and municipalities all powers and duties not inconsistent with the laws of New Mexico. The ordinances violate this core precept and invade the legislature's authority to regulate access to and provision of reproductive health care, the court wrote in its opinion by Justice C. Shannon Bacon. Bacon. It declined to address whether the ordinances violated the state's constitutional protections. Abortion is legal in New Mexico, which has become a destination for women seeking abortions from Texas and other states that have banned the procedure following the U.S. Supreme Court ruling in 2022, ending its recognition of a woman's constitutional right to abortion. Following that ruling, New Mexico's Roosevelt and Lea counties and the towns of Clovis and Hobbs, all on the Texas border, passed ordinances seeking to stop abortion clinics from receiving or sending mifepristone, a pill taken with another drug called misoprostol, to perform medication abortion and other abortion-related materials in the mail. Medication abortions account for more than half of all U.S. abortions. The ordinances invoked the Federal Comstock Act, a 19th century law against mailing abortifacients, which are drugs that induce abortion, and said that clinics must comply with the law. Under Roosevelt County's ordinance, any person other than a government employee could bring a civil lawsuit and seek damages of at least $100,000 for each violation of the Comstock Act. The New Mexico Supreme Court admonished this, saying that creating a private right of action and damages award was clearly intended to punish protected conduct. So, New Mexico saying nine to that. And that's what they're trying to do on the local and state levels too. And that's where they wanted this all along, abortion to be settled in the states. They didn't want the United States, the nation, to settle it. But it could very well be. It could end up being that way. Who knows? In worker news, the SEIU joins the AFL-CIO to unleash a new era of worker power as Trump 2.0 looms. The 2 million member strong Service Employees International Union, that's the SEIU, announced Wednesday that it is joining the AFL-CIO, bolstering the ranks of the largest labor federation in the United States as unions prepare to fight the incoming Trump administration. CEOs and billionaires want nothing more than to see workers divided, but we're standing here today with greater solidarity than ever to reach the 60 million Americans who say they'd join a union tomorrow if the law is allowed, and to unrig our labor laws to guarantee every worker in America the basic right to organize on the job, AFL-CIO President Liz Shuler said. With SEIU included, the unions that make up the AFL-CIO represent roughly 15 million workers across the nation. April Verrett, SEIU's international president, said union members are ready to unleash a new era of worker power as millions of service and care workers unite with workers at the AFL-CIO to build our unions in every industry and every zip code. Working people have been organizing our workplaces and communities to build a stronger economy and democracy, Verrett added. We are ready to stand up to union busters at corporations and in government and rewrite the outdated sexist, racist labor laws that hold us all back. While neither the SEIU nor the AFL-CIO mentioned Trump by name in their statements announcing the move, Shuler acknowledged during an MSNBC appearance late Wednesday that organized labor is going to be on defense probably right away as a Republican leader takes office and moves to stack his cabinet with lobbyists and others with deep corporate ties. We know that we've got to play a good defense game, but we also, as April and I have been talking about, we've got to be on offense, the AFL-CIO president added. Coming together is how we're more powerful and we rebalance the scales of this economy. Trump's second term is expected to bring an assault on workers' rights, much like his first 4 years in the White House, which saw rollbacks of safety rules, wage protections, and collective bargaining powers. Among other steps, Trump is expected to fire worker champion Jennifer Abruzzo, general counsel of the National Labor Relations Board, and nominate a pro-corporate replacement after he takes office later this month. Abruzzo has led the charge to ban anti-union captive audience meetings, and the incoming Trump administration is expected to try to reverse progress on that front and elsewhere. Unions are also bracing for Trump's mass deportation plan. Bloomberg reported Wednesday that the AFL-CIO has been working to equip its affiliates around the country and to help defend immigrant workers against potential workplace raids and mass deportation efforts once Donald Trump becomes president this month. The Union Federation is also readying rapid response plans to defend federal government employees against the Department of Government Efficiency, Bloomberg added, referring to the advisory commission set to be led by anti-union billionaires Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Heidi Shierholz, president of the Economic Policy Institute, said Wednesday that by standing together, SEIU and the AFL-CIO are sending a powerful message to President-elect Trump and his allies who are trying to pit working people against one another. The labor movement will not be fractured or silenced. Unions are a crucial part of a robust and fair economy, and SEIU's affiliation with the AFL-CIO strengthens the collective power of millions of workers, enabling them to fight more effectively for better wages, benefits, and working conditions, said Shierholz. It also amplifies labor's voice in advocating for progressive economic reforms that benefit all working families. Yes, so that's great that the unions are getting tougher. That remains to be seen how well that's going to affect things when we need an actual general strike. You know, like we said, the unions are only as strong as their union leaders, right? So if your union leaders are leading you into something you don't want, you need to get new leadership or go wildcat strike. I know it's dangerous, but we got to do something. We have got to do something. Meanwhile, ILA and USMX reach contract agreement on automation, avoiding a port strike. So remember the port strike late last year? It was supposed to go through the 15th. Living the van life remotely for the past 4 years. At least I own my own home. Yeah. And you know what? A lot more people are starting to do the van life and the converting box trucks into homes and stuff like that because it's fucking cheaper. And you can take it places. The International Longshoremen's Association, that's the ILA, and the U.S. Maritime Alliance, that's the USMX, have reached a tentative agreement on a new 6-year master contract. The agreement will replace the expiring contract which had been extended after a short strike last October. The two groups issued a joint statement Wednesday evening saying the two sides agreed to continue to operate under the current contract until the union can meet with its full wage scale committee and schedule a ratification vote, and USMX members can ratify the terms of the final contract. The agreement covers approximately 25,000 union workers in container handling at 14 ports and maritime cargo centers from Texas to Boston. Workers in roll-on, roll-off vehicle handling, which was also shut down during the October work stoppage, are not included in the new deal. In a classic compromise, both sides got what they had been seeking. A source with knowledge of the agreement told FreightWaves, that's the name of this page here, that terminal operators and ocean carriers get broader rights to introduce semi-automated rail-mounted gantry cranes and other technology they say are needed to improve efficiency in container handling, while the union receives guarantees for new jobs linked specifically to each piece of equipment. Jobs associated with cranes are among the highest paying among port workers. The agreement came together quickly, the source said, after the sides fleshed out details in meetings ahead of formal negotiations. The sides had previously agreed to a 62% pay increase following the October strike, but that was contingent on completing a new contract. Benefits and container royalties are among the details still to be worked out. Had an agreement not been reached, dock workers could have gone on strike January 15th when the extension expired. President Joe Biden had previously refrained from stepping in during strike activity in October, but he was more than fine to do that during the railroad strike a couple of years ago. And more than happy. It's also a clear-cut victory for ILA President Harold Daggett, who publicly portrayed foreign-based ocean carriers as siphoning billions of dollars in profits out of the U.S., earned on the backs of underpaid American dock workers, and that automation technology would eliminate union jobs. The current longshore contract negotiated in 2018 specifically prohibits full automation technology. The potential strike could have coincided with the start of President-elect Donald Trump's second term. Trump had not made it clear whether federal action would have been taken this time around. In December, he publicly backed the union in its anti-automation position. In a separate statement, the ILA said Trump's support was key to securing a new contract. The union also revealed for the first time that when Daggett and his son, Dennis Daggett, also a union official, met with Trump at Mar-a-Lago in December, the president-elect spoke by phone with USMX officials to express his support for the ILA. You have proven yourself to be one of the best friends of working men and women in the United States, the statement said in part. Details of the tentative agreement will not be announced during the final negotiation and ratification process, which will likely stretch into the summer. Importers, ports, and trade groups welcome news of the agreement. We're pleased to see the ILA and USMX come to a final agreement on a new contract as U.S. ports on the East and Gulf Coasts play a critical role in the retail supply chain, also known as the capitalist chain, said Retail Vice President Jonathan Gold. It's gold, Jerry, gold. Providing certainty with a new contract and avoiding further disruptions is paramount to ensure retail goods arrive in a timely manner for consumers. The agreement will also pave the way for much-needed modernization effects, which are essential for future growth at these ports and the overall resiliency of our nation's supply chain. The Georgia Ports Authority, which manages the Port of Savannah, praised the pact. The agency is unusual in that some of its employees work directly in container handling operations. We're pleased the ILA USMX reached a tentative agreement, and we want to thank both organizations for their efforts in the collective bargaining process, said President and Chief Executive Griff Lynch. Griff? That's almost griffed. We will now work closely with Gateway Terminals and our local ILA partners to deliver high productivity port operations to make our supply chains the most competitive in our industry. The International Association of North America, a trade group which represents hundreds of logistics providers across railroad and sea, also hailed the announcement. We commend the dedicated and focused efforts of both parties in achieving an agreement that paves the way for a brighter, growth-focused future. This milestone is not only vital for fostering the economic growth of containerized freight, but also for supporting and empowering the individuals who drive its daily operational movement. While we understand that the details of the agreement have not been made public yet, we still appreciate the collaboration shown by the two parties. Their cooperation underscores the importance of unity and shared vision in ensuring the continued strength and sustainability of the intermodal freight supply chain. Yeah. So, so they've been taken care of, but Wall Street looks like it's going to be losing a shit ton of jobs. So Wall Street is to lose 200,000 jobs as AI cuts roles. Remember them saying, oh, well, just learn to code. You're getting your job taken away by AI. Oh, that's too bad. Learn to code. Well, Wall Street, learn to code, motherfuckers. According to a Bloomberg intelligence report yesterday, global banks may reduce their workforce by up to 200,000 jobs over the next 3 to 5 years as artificial intelligence increasingly takes over roles traditionally performed by humans. A survey of chief information and technology officers conducted for BI revealed that on average they anticipate a 3% reduction in their workforce. Thomas Noetzel, the senior analyst at BI who authored the report, stated in a message that back office, middle office, and operation areas are those most likely to be impacted. Customer service functions are expected to evolve as bots handle client interactions. I thought that's what they were already doing. While know your customer responsibilities are also vulnerable to automation, he said, any jobs involving routine, repetitive tasks are at risk. Adding, but AI will not eliminate them. Rather, it will lead to workforce transformation. According to the BI report, nearly a quarter of the 93 respondents anticipate a more substantial reduction of 5% to 10% in overall headcount. That said, the peer group examined by BI includes prominent banks such as Citigroup Incorporated, J.P. Morgan Chase & Company, and Goldman Sachs Group. These findings suggest substantial transformations within the industry, leading to improved earnings according to the report. By 2027, banks could see a 12 to 17% rise in pre-tax profits, potentially boosting their combined bottom line by up to $180 billion. God damn. As AI drives productivity gains, according to BI. As per the report, 8 out of 10 respondents believe that generative AI will boost productivity and revenue by at least 5% within the next 3 to 5 years. Digital slavery. That's what it is. The BI report notes that after spending years modernizing their IT infrastructure to streamline processes and cut costs in the aftermath of the financial crisis, banks are now adopting the latest AI technologies, which hold the potential to further boost productivity. Citi's June report highlighted that AI is anticipated to displace more jobs in the banking sector than in any other industry. The report indicated that around 54% of jobs within banking have a high likelihood of being automated. However, the report also underscores that many firms have stressed the shift will result in job transformations driven by technology rather than total replacements. In November, Teresa Heizenrether, who heads JP Morgan's AI initiatives, noted that the bank's adoption of generative AI has primarily been focused on augmenting jobs rather than replacing them. Is that it? I guess that is it. I guess that's it. Okay. So, Wall Street's going to be losing a shit ton of jobs too. Better learn to code. Code. But I mean, these repetitive jobs, if you can replace it with AI, they're going to. And that's not just Wall Street. That's okay, Jack, have a good weekend. It's anything. It could be in these mom and pop places. If they can do it with AI without, if the electricity is less than the payroll, they're going to do it. Come on. Y'all know this. Finally in our U.S. news, they finally put Jimmy Carter to rest. They finally buried his body. Thank God. Jimmy Carter honored with state funeral in D.C. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter has been honored with a state funeral at the Washington National Cathedral, capping nearly a week of national mourning for the former politician and humanitarian leader. Joe Biden delivered the eulogy in Washington, D.C. on Thursday morning, less than 2 weeks before he leaves office. Carter never let the tides of politics divert him from his mission to serve and shape the world, Biden somehow regurgitated. The man had character. All of Carter's living presidential successors were in attendance, including Donald Trump, who paid his respects before Carter's coffin a day earlier in the Capitol Rotunda. Tributes have poured in for Carter since he died on December 29th at the age of 100, with political leaders and others hailing his dedication to public service and decades of humanitarian work. Not all of it was good, but if you're going to compare presidents, he was probably the best out of them as far as like being decent people. But, again, low bar. While he only served one term as president from 77 to 81, the former peanut farmer from the U.S. state of Georgia left a lasting legacy during his post-presidential career. He won the Nobel Prize for Peace in 2002 for the work in his organization, the Carter Center, did to fight the guinea worm disease in Africa and to monitor elections across the world. He was also heavily involved in building homes for low-income people through Habitat for Humanity, earning him admiration across the political spectrum. Yesterday concluded 6 days of national rights that began in Plains, Georgia, where Carter was born in 1924, lived most of his life, and died after 22 months in hospice care. Ceremonies had continued in Atlanta and Washington, where Carter has lain in state since Tuesday. His legacy, like that of all U.S. presidents, is not black and white. In 1977, he successfully negotiated the Camp David Agreement, which normalized relations between Egypt and Israel. He also wanted to make American government more compassionate and more considerate of ordinary people, Fisher said. This is according to Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher, who was there. Fisher added that other observers will note that Carter, while serving as president, did not condemn apartheid South Africa or speak out against atrocities in El Salvador, among other foreign policy stances. So it becomes complicated, but people will point to the work that he did afterwards with the Carter Center when he tried to advance democracy, when he negotiated settlements in some of the world's hottest hotspots, he said. He declared Israel to be an apartheid state. He also talked about Nicolas Maduro. Even though the American administration was saying that his first election was fraudulent, Carter said that he won it in free and fair elections. He was always willing to speak out, and that's the legacy that will be burnished here at the National Cathedral. The statesman, the man who did much more out of the White House than he did in his 4 years in it. And he really did, Carter really did inherit a raw deal, too. Coming out of all the Watergate shit and Ford having to resign Nixon having to resign and Ford being the only person to ever be president who wasn't elected president. It was a mess. Politicians, diplomats, and other figures from all over the world were at the funeral, including Bill Gates and Bernice King, who's the daughter of Martin Luther King Jr. And they made some nice comments about him. Ted Mondale, son of Walter Mondale, was there. That was Carter's vice president. And I believe his grandson spoke as well. Steve Ford, the grandson of President Gerald Ford, read a tribute from his grandfather, who died in 2006. Carter defeated Ford in 1976, but the pair and their first ladies became close friends, and Carter eulogized Ford at his funeral back in 2006. So a top staffer did a speech, and then his grandson. So after the morning service, his 4 children and extended family were returned to his home state of Georgia for an afternoon funeral, and he'll be buried on a family plot next to his wife, Rosalind, who he was married for more than 77 years. Jesus Christ, 77 years. I watched them build a home in a dangerous hood in New Orleans. They had to break when the hood got hot. Why build a poor person a home in a dangerous area? Exactly. It's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a shotgun wound, right? You kind of need to fix the underlying system. You know, it's literally you're building a house on an uneven foundation, and that uneven foundation is corruption, greed, all that good stuff. So it's hard to get rid of greed, but, we can at least try. So, speaking of Maduro, Venezuela's opposition leader was arrested a day before Maduro's inauguration. So lady right there, receiving a healing. I don't believe that's what's happening. I don't know what's happening there. Venezuela opposition. Come on, do your thing. Venezuela opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. Is that like Hakuna Matata? Has been arrested after reappearing in public for the first time in months, a day before the third inauguration of President Nicolas Maduro. A social media account for Comando con Venezuela, the political opposition group Machado leads, reported the arrest on Thursday. Maria Corina Machado. I can't stop getting that tune out of my head. Was violently intercepted while leaving the gathering in Chacao. The opposition group wrote, adding the government forces fired at the motorcycles that were transporting her. It has since announced Machado's release, dismissing reports that the brief detention was false. Maduro's government quickly denounced the incident as an effort to dent the administration's reputation. Corina Machado. The tactic of media distraction is not new, so no one should be surprised, less so coming from fascists who are the architects of deception. Information Minister Freddie Nanez said on social media platform Telegram after the reports of Machado's arrest emerged. So, Corina Machado. At least it helps you. It's a mnemonic device to help you remember people's names. Corina Machado. Or it's just me being stupid. Yes, I did. Thanks for paying attention, Chuck. We've been saying Hakuna Matata. That was the joke. Good job. You got it. Meanwhile, Argentina, an Argentina activist has been sentenced over genocidal Israel tweet. So I know this should have been in the propaganda watch, but it's starting to spill out into other parts of the news as well. While Argentina welcomes an Israeli soldier fleeing Brazil on charges of committing genocide in Gaza, Argentina has given Alejandro Bodart, leader of the Socialist Workers Movement, MST, a 6-month suspended sentence for a post he made on the social media platform The Tweeters, in which he condemned what he described as the ongoing genocide perpetrated by Israel against the Palestinians. The Criminal Juvenile Contravention and Misdemeanor Chamber of Buenos Aires, wow, that's a hell of a place, overturned the acquittal that Bodart had initially received in a case initiated by a complaint from the delegation of Argentine Israelite Association, the DAIA. You know that old bag. The organization denounced him for violating anti-discrimination law 23592 and the definition of anti-Semitism set by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, the IHRA, as adopted by the national state. The case arose from Bodart's 2022 statements in which he referred to Israel as a racist and genocidal state and advocated for the Palestinian cause from the river to the sea. How dare you, sir? I said good day. Zionists equals Nazis, and 74 years of the catastrophe that the Palestinian people are experiencing at the hands of the racist and genocidal state of Israel. The key, symbolizing their stolen homes and lands, is present in every struggle for a secular and democratic Palestine from the river to the sea, he wrote. Judges Jorge Franza and Ignacio Majiques voted to convict Bodart, asserting that his statements delegitimize the existence of Israel and incite violence, while Judge Patricia LaRocca voted to acquit him. In a statement, Bodart criticized the conviction and announced that he would appeal the decision, while the International Tribunal in The Hague, the International Criminal Court, the UN Commission on Human Rights, Pope Francis, countless human rights organizations, democratic sectors, and millions of people around the world condemn such crimes against humanity, and Benjamin Netanyahu is a wanted war criminal. They are trying to silence me for telling the truth in 3 tweets in solidarity with the just Palestinian cause. They will not succeed because there are more and more of us who do not remain silent in the face of such barbarity, Bodart said. Good for you. Bodart began his journey in Argentina back in 1963 as a socialist. He was born there in 1963 as a socialist activist in the 1980s. Over the course of his career, he has held various political roles, including serving as a deputy for the autonomous city of Buenos Aires from 2011 to 2015. During his tenure, he introduced 553 legislative bills, earning recognition for his advocacy of public education and healthcare, as well as economic reforms promoting social justice. What a piece of shit. What the hell? Public education and healthcare. He currently serves as the General Secretary and National Leader of the Socialist Workers Movement, MST, not to be confused with Mystery Science Theater. He is also the coordinator of the International Socialist League, an organization established in 2019 that unites over 30 revolutionary leftist groups across 5 continents. This is not merely a legal battle as part of our internationalist support for the Palestinian peoples in the face of the new Nakba imposed by Israel, and as we have done since the start of the complaint over 2 years ago, we will continue to mobilize for acquittal of our comrade Bodart and the defense of the right to free political expression. Bodart's defense team, Maria del Carmen Verdu and Ismail Jalil, said, "In reality, the true criminal, the real serial killer, and the perpetrator of crimes against humanity and the genocide against the Palestinians is the Zionist state of Israel, currently led by Netanyahu." Wait a minute, I'm looking, but you know what? I can't find the lie. Convicting Bodart for 3 tweets expressing solidarity with the Palestinian cause infringes upon the fundamental democratic and constitutional right to freedom of expression, and in effect perpetuates impunity for these crimes, states a petition started by Argentine activists demanding his immediate acquittal. Denouncing genocide is not a crime, they added. But it is Argentina, and they got that crazy fascist guy there, so, you know, I'm pretty sure you know how that's going to work out. So meanwhile, in Gaza, their hospital situation is bleak at best, as 3 Gaza hospitals face imminent closure, as the latest Israeli raids kill 50. The UN warns that a lack of fuel supply in Gaza threatens to shut down more medical facilities across the besieged territory, putting the lives of patients and newborns at grave risk. The UN's condemnation of the deliberate and systematic attacks on Gaza hospitals came as relentless Israeli strikes killed more than 50 more Palestinians in the last 24 hours. Gaza health officials yesterday said Al-Aqsa, Nasser, and the European hospitals are all at risk of imminent closure after repeated Israeli bombardment and blockade of supplies, as they face the same fate as Kamal Adwan, Indonesian, and Al-Ada hospitals. Al Jazeera's Hani Mahmoud, reporting from Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir al-Balah, said the facility was now overstretched given an influx of more injured civilians, many of them women and children, who had now faced a genocide for 15 months. Doctors are reporting about the acute shortage of basic supplies, including surgical tools, antibiotics, and painkillers. Dr. Bushra Othman, a general surgeon and a volunteer at the hospital, said the situation is being assessed every 24 hours as officials attempt to replenish supplies. At any time during the day, power and electricity will cut out, and certain areas should be protected, such as the operating theaters, the intensive care unit, including the neonatal unit, she told Al Jazeera. At Nasser Hospital, Doctors Without Borders warned that the lives of 15 newborns in incubators were at risk due to a shortage of fuel for generators that provide electricity to the facility. Without fuel, these newborns are at risk of losing their lives, said Pascal Quassard, MSF's emergency coordinator. Al Jazeera's Tariq Abu Azoum, also reporting from Deir al-Balah, said the atmosphere in the Palestinian territory is quite charged with tension and fear. What we have seen over the past 24 hours has been very bloody. The death toll from the past day has really been staggering, he said. Yesterday, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, that's UNRWA, renewed its call for a ceasefire. More humanitarian aid must come into Gaza, and a ceasefire is more critical than ever, the group wrote on Twitter. Despite the UN's appeal, Israel continued its bombardment across the Gaza Strip. Medical sources told Al Jazeera Arabic at least 6 Palestinians were killed in attacks at dawn in central and southern Gaza, while at least 8 others were killed in Jabalia in northern Gaza. Wafa news agency reported that 4 Palestinians, including 3 children, were killed at Nusrat refugee camp, while several others remain missing under the rubble. Wafa and Israeli strikes killed at least 51 civilians and injured 78 others in the past 24 hours, and bringing the total to over 46,000 since October of 2023. Meanwhile, Pope Francis stepped up his criticisms of Israel's military campaign as very serious and shameful. In his yearly address to diplomats delivered on his behalf by an aide, yesterday the Pope appeared to reference deaths caused by the cold weather in Gaza, where there is almost no electricity. We cannot accept that children are freezing to death because hospitals have been destroyed or a country's energy network has been hit, the text of his address says. I can't remember if he's come out and straight up said that it's a genocide going on over there, but if he hasn't, he needs to. He needs to be calling that out. Anybody who still, that the Pope still holds sway over, he needs to be telling those people. So the UK's military has been making secret trips to Israel during this whole time. This is from Declassified UK. The most senior figures in the UK military made at least 5 unpublicized visits to Israel in the months after it began striking Gaza in October 2023. declassified UK has found. British government data shows that Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, the chief of the defense staff and the UK's top soldier, visited Israel on January 21st of last year. On the trip, he met the Israeli military's chief of staff, Herzi Halevi, to discuss future operations in the region. By then, Israel had already killed around 25,000 Palestinians as international condemnation mounted. This was Radakin's second known visit to Israel after he accompanied then Defense Secretary Grant Shapps on an official trip in December 2023. Shapps' visit was disclosed at the time by the British government. Radakin is also known to have visited Halevi again in Israel in August last year, while in November, the Israeli soldier was invited by Britain's Ministry of Defense to attend a meeting in London. Halevi was given special immunity by the UK authorities to avoid the possibility of being arrested for war crimes while in Britain. Oh, special immunity. Isn't that nice? From one Zionist to another. Another senior UK figure who has visited Israel is the head of the Royal Air Force, Air Chief Marshal Sir Richard Knighton. If your last name is Knighton, do you need to be knighted again? It's like, I don't know. Who undertook a trip on January 9th last year for purposes which are undeclared in the government data. I wonder. The RAF has since flown hundreds of spy missions over Gaza in aid of Israeli intelligence. The UK says that only information related to Hamas hostage-taking is passed to Israel from these flights, which take off from the UK's sprawling military and intelligence base on Cyprus. James Hockenhall, I love these English names. James Hockenhall, the head of Strategic Command, the UK military's senior leadership body, also quietly visited Tel Aviv for a UK-Israel bilateral on December 28th. A UK-Israel bilateral is also known as a hot water enema, in case you didn't know. I'm not a doctor, so don't at me, bro. This was one day before the South African government filed its genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. 6 weeks later, on February 13th, Hockenhall hosted an Israeli general, Eliezer Toledano, in London in a further unpublicized visit. All these unpublicized visits, what's up? Toledano serves as the head of the Israeli Military Strategy and Third Circle Directorate, which focuses on Iran. Also visiting Israel have been other senior Ministry of Defense officials, such as General Charles Stickland, the Chief Joint Operations at the UK's permanent joint headquarters. Oh man, I bet it's all fun and good at the joint headquarters. Y'all know what's up. Puff, puff, pass, bitch. Which is responsible for the command and integration of UK global operations. Stickland visited Israel on March 18th, described in the government documents as MOD directed attendance at meetings to be held in Tel Aviv. On the same day, Paul Wyatt, the MOD's Director General for Security Policy, was also meeting counterparts in Tel Aviv. The unpublicized visits by senior UK figures raise further concerns about the level of military assistance Britain is providing to Israel. Chris Law, the SNP MP for Dundee Central, said this new information will only fuel suspicions that successive UK governments have given tacit approval to and are complicit in what many are now considering to be a genocide in Gaza. Thank you. The UK government must be upfront about the full extent of the British Armed Forces' involvement in Gaza and detail precisely what support they have given throughout this conflict to the Israeli Defense Forces. This must include details of any further visits by senior military figures to Israel. I wouldn't count on it, but okay. He added, the UK government may think that it is being very clever by withholding this information, but ultimately it will only cede ground to misinformation and encourage guesswork. By detailing the exact involvement of British military figures, the UK government can prove once and for all that they are not complicit in this tragedy. Oh, but see, they're not, so I guess they are. In addition to the RAF surveillance flights over Gaza, Declassified has also documented British military training of Israeli personnel in the UK, arms supplies to the Israeli military after Britain announced limited sanctions, and the use of UK airspace to send weapons to Israel. An MOD spokesperson said, as part of the concerted UK effort, along with allies and partners to reach a peaceful resolution to the ongoing conflict in Gaza, senior defense officials have visited Israel for routine diplomatic visits. They added discussions included the UK calls for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and the need for all parties to comply with international humanitarian law while recognizing Israel's right to security. Israel's right to security. And that is just a sick joke now. Just like, oh, it's self-defense, and they're just blowing the fuck out of everybody. No, it's self-defense. But don't worry, BB. Your cuck friends in Poland are going to take care of you. They're not going to harass you. So Netanyahu will attend the Auschwitz event in Poland despite an ICC warrant against him. Look at that. That's a beautiful picture right there. Yes, wanted for genocide, you trash piece of shit. Poland has confirmed that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will attend the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp despite an arrest warrant issued against him by the International Criminal Court. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk announced that his government would provide Netanyahu with security during his visit. Tusk addressed the situation, saying yesterday afternoon, the president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, asked me to ensure the safe stay of Prime Minister Netanyahu in Poland in connection with the decision of the International Criminal Court. We have been working for several days on such a decision, which on the one hand will guarantee a safe stay for all guests interested in participating in the annual events in Auschwitz. This, of course, applies in particular to representatives of the State of Israel. So the ICC issued the arrest warrants back in November for Minister Yoav Gallant, who is no longer employed there, and for Bibi too. Israel attempted to challenge the ICC's decision by submitting a direct appeal to the court's appeals chamber, contesting the pretrial chamber one's rejection of Israel's jurisdiction challenge under Article 19(2) of the Rome Statute. However, ICC prosecutor Karim Khan clarified that the decision does not constitute a ruling with respect to jurisdiction and as such is not subject to direct appeal under Article 82(1)(a) of the statute. So as the Rome Statute is, Poland is part of this Rome Statute. They're supposed to, if he comes there, they're supposed to arrest him under this Rome Statute. But they said, nah, we good. It's fine. So I know some of you may have your concerns about Amnesty International. I'm concerned about any non-government organization that is out there. Always be skeptical of any of these places, and that includes Amnesty. So Amnesty suspends their Israel branch due to anti-Palestinian racism. There's a shock. Amnesty International in Israel? What? That's just so shocking. I can't believe it. ? Amnesty International has suspended its Israeli branch for failing to align with the organization's stance that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza and accused the branch of anti-Palestinian racism, according to the New York Post. The report published on Tuesday references a January 6th letter in which Tumalu Lavel Peter Fafu, Amnesty's interim international chairman, stated that the Israel branch had acted in ways that undermine the group's mission. The suspension is set to last 2 years, during which a review panel will evaluate whether to reinstate Amnesty International Israel or impose a permanent ban. The branch retains the option to appeal the decision. We take this action in response to evidence of endemic anti-Palestinian racism within Al-Israel, which violates core human rights principles and amnesty values, and evidence of Al-Israel's misalignment with and hostility. AI. That's Amnesty International Israel's. I kept saying Al. misalignment with and hostility to Amnesty positions. The interim international chairman also stated that Amnesty Israel had actively opposed the organization's research and reports, particularly the 2022 publication, Israel's Apartheid Against Palestinians, Cruel System of Domination and Crime Against Humanity, and the report last year, You Feel Like You Are Subhuman, Israel's Genocide Against Palestinians in Gaza. AI Israel has sought to publicly discredit Amnesty's human rights research and positions. Its efforts to publicly undermine the findings and recommendations of Amnesty's 2022 report on Israel's apartheid against Palestinians, and more recently, Amnesty's 2024 report on Israel's genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, have been deeply prejudicial to Amnesty's human rights mission, threatening our credibility, integrity, and operational coherence. In response, members of Amnesty International's Israel branch have pushed back against their suspension, accusing the global organization of overlooking anti-Semitism within its ranks. Former Amnesty Israel director Yonatan Ger criticized the move, describing the Israeli branch as the guardian of the Israeli government against the human rights movement. In a leaked email, Amnesty International Secretary General Agnes Callamard announced that the suspension would be formally addressed on January 21st. A few reportedly added that a committee would determine whether Amnesty International Israel has a future within the Amnesty movement. Amnesty did not reply to Memo's request for comment at the time of going to press, which is sad, but, it happens. So you have to watch out, right? These especially the branch that's in Israel. It's like, man, maybe we're not dealing with the anti-Semitism enough. Yeah, I know Israel's a bunch of murdering assholes, but so Lebanon finally has a new president. I know you've been wondering about that, as waiting with bated breath as much as I've been doing. So U.S. and Israel cheer as Lebanon elects Joseph Aoun as president. Lebanon's parliament finally ended the multi-year situation in which this is from Jason Ditz over there at antiwar.com. Check out their site for a lot of good independent news, different sources, that sort of thing. Lebanon's parliament finally ended the multi-year situation in which the country had no president, electing Army Chief Joseph Aoun to the position. He is the first president since October 2022, when former President Michel Aoun, who is unrelated, when his term expired, or when their term expired. Lebanon's government is very divided, making it difficult for a candidate to be successfully elected. Aoun's election happened only after former Interior Minister Suleiman Frangue, the main alternative candidate, withdrew and endorsed Aoun. Electing a president requires a two-thirds majority of parliament, which was met after Frangue's endorsement gave Aoun the support of Hezbollah and Amal movements. Many media reports see Aoun's election as a sign of Hezbollah's weakness, despite most Hezbollah MPs supporting him. Aoun had been the candidate of choice for many in the international community. The U.S. in particular told Lebanon that Saudi Arabia was prepared to give Lebanon hundreds of millions of dollars in post-war reconstruction if Aoun were elected. The U.S. Embassy was quick to issue a statement praising Aoun's election, and Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar also welcomed the move as a step towards stability in Lebanon. Israel is still occupying much of southern Lebanon, and there is no sign of them withdrawing within the 60-day deadline the ceasefire prescribes. France also congratulated Aoun on his win. Aoun's actual political positions aren't really known, but after the election, he did promise to support an independent judiciary. In practice, however, Lebanon is a parliamentary system, so the president's power is fairly limited beyond nominating prime ministers. Prime Minister Najib Mikati has been acting prime minister in recent years because there was no president to nominate him. Lebanon's president serves a term of 6 years. The president can only hold non-consecutive terms after another candidate holds the position for 6 years. By convention, Lebanon appoints a Maronite Christian to the presidency. Although this is not a strict constitutional requirement, the sectarian power-sharing convention gives Maronites the presidency, Sunnis the premiership, and Shiites the Speaker of Parliament. Lebanon's constitution was amended in 1998 to allow military commanders to serve as president. Since that amendment, all 4 of Lebanon's presidents have been military commanders. While the presidency is largely a ceremonial position, the hope is that Aoun's election will open up the flow of international aid for reconstruction after Israel's invasion. This may not happen immediately, however, as Israel isn't yet withdrawing from Lebanon, and there are substantial concerns that the war is going to restart. Why? Because Bibi's in the mix. And whenever Bibi's in the mix, what do we say on this show? Fuckery is always afoot. So the new Lebanese president vows state monopoly on all arms and state reforms. There's the person right there. That's Aoun. I don't know who this guy is, but he looks concerned. Lebanon's new president vowed to take control of all arms outside state authority and fully implement the ceasefire deal with Israel in his inaugural speech yesterday. The military commander turned president got 99 votes in a parliamentary session, more than the 86 votes he needed to win. His election as Lebanon's 14th president comes after more than a 2-year stalemate, which has seen many state institutions in caretaker capacity or vacant. After taking oath, Aoun made a speech many Lebanese have deemed as promising and very ambitious, as he said he will work to end corruption, interference in the country's judiciary, and impunity for criminals. He also said he would end the smuggling of arms and drugs and begin reconstructing what was destroyed by Israel in its last war on Lebanon. My pledge is to cooperate with the new government to approve the Judicial Independence Bill and to challenge any law that violates the Constitution and call for parliamentary consultations as soon as possible to choose a prime minister who will be a partner and not an adversary, Aoun said from Parliament, interrupted by rounds of applause from the attendees. The session was observed by diplomats, including the ambassadors of countries which have in recent days exerted enormous pressure on Lebanon's political establishment to reach a consensus and end the deadlock. I will also work to confirm the state's right to monopolize the carrying of weapons, he said. This part of his speech especially received a warm welcome from rivals of Hezbollah, which has come out battered from the war with Israel. Hezbollah's arsenal has long been a major point of contention in Lebanon, with the group's rivals saying it was impossible to state build as long as armed groups exist in the country. The group has long said it would give up its arms when the Lebanese army was capable of defending the country against Israeli threats. Aoun did not name Hezbollah in his speech, but his vows to respect international resolutions and implement the ceasefire deal were enough to signal his intentions. The U.S. brokered agreement came into effect on November 27th, and Israel, Lebanon, and Hezbollah all have 60 days until late this month to implement the deal. Israel has carried out hundreds of violations with fears that it may seek to remain in parts of southern Lebanon even after the 60-day deadline is over. Beirut is responsible for making sure no weapons outside state control exist in southern Lebanon, particularly south of the Litani River, where U.S. peacekeepers operate alongside the Lebanese army. Arms everywhere else across the country must also be confiscated, and borders must be strictly monitored. Since the war ended, some of Lebanon's main entry points, such as its only civilian airport and the port of Beirut, have seen stringent measures with extraordinary security checks taking place. Aoun said a complete defense strategy on diplomatic, economic, and military levels will be negotiated, one that enables the Lebanese state to remove the Israeli occupation from the south and deter its aggression. He promised to work on strengthening the Lebanese army, long under-equipped. We will invest in the military to control and stabilize the borders in the south and demarcate them in the east and north. With Syria, he said, extending his hand out to the interim authorities in Damascus, which ousted Bashar al-Assad's regime a month ago. The president called for the state of a serious and friendly dialogue with the Syrian state to discuss relations and all outstanding issues between us, especially with regard to missing Lebanese citizens in Syria, many of whom are believed to have been kidnapped by Assad's forces during the former Syrian military's occupation of Lebanon, and Syrian refugees in Lebanon, which make up about a third of the country's population. The new president spoke of restructuring Lebanon's inflated public sector and rotating jobs in a patronage system largely based on clientelism, where corruption has become rampant. Also on internal matters, Aoun stressed a change in the way politics work in Lebanon, vowing to uphold the constitution, saying, "My pledge is to the Lebanese, wherever they are, and for the whole world, to hear that today a new phase in Lebanon's history has begun. Interference in the judiciary is forbidden. There will be no immunity for criminals or corrupt individuals. There is no place for mafias, drug trafficking, or money laundering in Lebanon," the president added. Well, yeah, because the money laundering is all in Israel. That's where that happens. Lebanon was placed on the gray list by the Paris-based Financial Action Task Force in October after several warnings to the political class to carry out much-needed fiscal reforms. These calls have fallen on deaf ears. A cash economy has flourished in Lebanon after its banking sector collapsed in 2019, with fears and accusations that this was allowing for wide-scale money laundering. Failing to carry out reforms could place Lebanon on the blacklist alongside countries like Iran, Myanmar, and North Korea. The financial crisis has seen Lebanese locked out of their lifelong savings, with many unable to afford even necessities amid a crumbling infrastructure. Aoun said he would adhere to the free economy, and we need banks where the governor is the rule of law. As he said, he would work to protect the assets of depositors. He pledged to push the next government to work on laws that will enforce administrative decentralization, something stipulated in Lebanon's constitution but never implemented. The president's prerogatives in Lebanon remain somewhat limited, as constitutional amendments in 1989 to end the civil war gave more powers to the legislative and executive branches of government. This power structure shared between the country's rivals has resulted in decades of dysfunctional governance. Yes. So, that's in Lebanon. You have the Palestinian Authority, who is basically just cucks for Israel. So I have to wait and see what happens. Will this Aoun guy be a cuck as well, or will he actually be the leader that they want in Lebanon? Wild story out of Iran, or related to Iran. Japan Yakuza boss pleads guilty to trafficking nuclear material to Iran. There he is. Look at that guy. He's like, hey, I'll just shoot it over there. It'll be easier. A reputed leader of a Japan-based Yakuza crime syndicate, Takeshi Ibasawa, pleaded guilty in a Manhattan federal court yesterday to charges of trafficking nuclear materials, weapons, and drugs. The charges include conspiring to sell uranium and plutonium from Myanmar, believing that they were destined for Iran's nuclear weapons program. According to the AP, prosecutors revealed that the 60-year-old unknowingly dealt with a confidential source for the U.S. DEA and an undercover agent posing as an Iranian general between 2020 and 2022. He was arrested in a DEA sting operation in Manhattan in April 2022. Ibasawa admitted to brokering deals for weapons-grade plutonium, claiming that it was better for nuclear arms than uranium. Samples obtained during the investigation were confirmed by a federal lab to contain uranium, thorium, and weapons-grade plutonium. The nuclear materials allegedly originated from a Myanmar ethnic insurgent group mining uranium to fund arms purchases. In addition to nuclear material trafficking, Ibasawa sought to procure U.S.-made surface-to-air missiles and heavy weaponry for Myanmar insurgents, accepting heroin and methamphetamine as partial payment because, you know, cash is king, but crack is the emperor. DEA Administrator Ann Milgram lauded the operation as evidence of the agency's abilities to dismantle global criminal networks. The investigation exposed the shocking depths of international organized crime, from trafficking nuclear materials to fueling the narcotics trade and arming violent insurgents, she said. Assistant Attorney General Matthew G. Olson added, "Today's plea should serve as a stark reminder to those who imperil our national security by trafficking weapons-grade plutonium and other dangerous materials on behalf of organized criminal syndicates that the Department of Justice will hold you accountable to the fullest extent of the law, mister." Ibasawa faces a mandatory minimum of 10 years and a possible life sentence. What's up, Ghost Star? Good to see you, bud. Sentencing is set for April 9th. The case adds to the scrutiny surrounding Iran's nuclear program, which Tehran has claimed consistently is solely for peaceful purposes. However, recent hints from Iranian officials about revising the country's nuclear doctrine come amid strategic setbacks faced by the axis of resistance in its struggle against the Israeli occupation state. So yeah, this guy trying to peddle uranium. Is that what's happening now? Is that these are Bond supervillains now? They're peddling uranium. So Iraq is not fucking around with this new Syria or whatever the hell it is. Iraq completes 400-kilometer security border wall with Syria amid persistent threats. Yeah, so Iraq is ramping up efforts to secure its western and northern borders with Syria to prevent infiltrations by ISIS militants, armed groups, and drug smuggling networks. Speaking on Tuesday to Iraq's news agency, the INA, Major General Tahsin al-Kafaji, spokesperson for Iraq's Joint Operations Command, outlined the progress made in fortifying the 615-kilometer-long border. According to al-Kafaji, 400 kilometers of a planned concrete wall have been completed alongside additional security measures to ensure the border's stability. The construction of the concrete barrier, which began in 2018, is part of a broader strategy targeting areas adjacent to the Anbar and Ninawa governorates, regions that have historically witnessed cross-border infiltrations, smuggling operations, and militant activity. The project includes trenches 3 meters wide and deep, barbed wire installations, observation towers, and a robust deployment of border guard units supported by Iraqi army forces positioned in the rear. Giggity. Al-Kafaji emphasized that these measures aim to prevent the reemergence of ISIS sleeper cells, controlled organized crime, and curtail drug smuggling. Securing the borders with Syria is a top priority, he stated, highlighting the critical role of intelligence operations and aerial surveillance in maintaining border stability. The Iraqi ministers of defense and interior, along with the Joint Operations Command, are also focusing on fortifying the most rugged and complex areas of the border. Key zones include the Fishkabur crossing to the Gilbarat area and the towns of Rabia and Sinjar in Ninawa, opposite Syria's al-Hasaka governorate? Yeah, al-Hasaka. These regions are considered hotspots for cross-border infiltration and smuggling activities. Despite these efforts, experts remain cautious about the feasibility of achieving complete security along the lengthy and challenging border, something we've had to deal with here. Historically, the Iraqi-Syrian border has been a corridor for armed groups, including Al-Qaeda and ISIS, as well as for smuggling operations. While the Islamic State group was declared defeated in Iraq in 2017 and in Syria in 2009, its sleeper cells remain active in both countries, posing an ongoing threat. Iraqi officials are determined to complete the border fortifications by the end of this year. Al-Kafaji reiterated that the country's efforts to secure its borders represent a critical component of Iraq's broader national security strategy aimed at preventing any future breaches that could destabilize the region. So, doing a Trump there, building the wall. We're going to build the wall. We're going to make the Syrians pay for it. It's going to be the best Iraqi wall ever. Everybody's talking about it. So as we told you recently with the new deal in Syria, the United States is trying to get a piece of the pie, and so is Jordan, one of their neighbors. Jordan seeks foothold in New Syria to boost economy and secure borders. Look at this guy. Hello. I like that. I like that thing around the steering wheel, though. That's pretty cool. That little band thing. Soon after rebels toppled Bashar al-Assad's rule in Syria last month, Jordan took immediate action. Foreign Minister Ayman al-Safadi was among the first high-ranking officials to meet Syria's de facto leader, Ahmed al-Sharaa, in Damascus within days of the government change. Earlier this week, a Syrian delegation led by Foreign Minister Assad Hassan al-Shaibani flew to Amman for further talks, which included discussions with security officials. A wide range of issues were on the table, including border security, drug smuggling, energy supply trade, and the return of Syrian refugees. Following the meeting, Safadi announced the formation of joint committees with Syria to address these concerns. The ongoing visits highlight how both countries, which share a 378-kilometer-long border, view their cooperation as critical, according to political analyst Monter al-Hawarat. For Damascus, Amman can assist in lobbying for the lifting of sanctions, which would help revive the economy. On the other hand, Jordan sees Syria's reconstruction as a potential economic opportunity, generating investment, trade jobs, and boosting its export and logistics sectors. With Syria's economy in ruins, Jordan will play a critical role in supporting the reconstruction of institutions and providing essential energy. Hawarat told Middle East Eye. Oh, Ghostwriter, you're on Rumble and you're on YouTube. You're double dipping. Look at you. You're the devil. But that's why I love you. In addition to mutual economic benefit, Jordan will also be invested in helping stabilize Syria, he explained. Jordan will play a role in convincing the international community to support the new governance structure, he added. It will also have a role in rehabilitating Syrian leaders who were previously listed as terrorists. Since the onset of Syria's civil war in 2011, the border crossing between the two nations has been frequently closed, with the first closure in 2015 lasting 3 years. Trade between the two countries has also been in decline, dropping from $617 million in 2010 to just $146.6 million in 2023, primarily due to regional tensions. However, Amman has now taken several steps to reverse these setbacks. Earlier this week, the establishment of a new inland port in the border city of Mafraq was announced to facilitate reconstruction projects. This port will serve as a logistics hub, facilitating the transport of materials and equipment to Syria, further cementing Jordan's role as a key player in the region's supply chain. Economic researcher and energies affairs specialist Amer Shabaki explained that Jordan's competitive advantages will make it an ideal partner for Syria's reconstruction and its essential needs. Jordan offers cost-effective and secure transportation, making it the most efficient option for transporting goods and services to Syria, Shabaki said. Additionally, Jordan has the necessary construction materials and technical expertise to support Syria's infrastructure rebuilding. Shabaki also emphasized that Jordanian agricultural products and essential commodities can effectively and sustainably meet Syria's market demands. Jordan is also looking to contribute to Syria's energy sector by supplying electricity and helping to rehabilitate its damaged power grids. Last week, Jordan said it was ready to supply Syria with approximately 250 megawatts of electricity. This initiative could eventually extend electricity supplies to Lebanon, which have been restricted due to the U.S. Caesar Act sanctions on entities dealing with the Assad government, also hitting Lebanon's economy. Shabaki stressed the importance of Jordan pushing for exemptions from international sanctions, including the Caesar Act, to capitalize on this new opportunity. Such exemptions would pave the way for broader trade and service cooperation between the two countries and represent a step towards the permanent lifting of sanctions on Syria, Shabaki said. High on Jordan's agenda in recent years has been the issue of weapons and drug smuggling across the border from Syria. During his visit to Amman, Syria's Shaibani stated that this was now a thing of the past. But retired Jordanian Air Force Major General and military analyst Mamoun Abu Nuwar thinks restoring and maintaining border security is easier said than done. Although Jordan previously hosted training programs for Syrian opposition groups in collaboration with Western countries, these were limited in scope and duration. The target groups were the U.S.-backed factions in southern Syria. Engaging with other armed groups will be more complex, says Abu Nuwar, particularly given the presence of multiple factions in northern and southern Syria. Which army would Jordan train, he questioned. Would it be the HTS? HTS controls major cities, while the Syrian Democratic Forces, the SDF, hold vast areas. In the south, factions like the Druze also operate. Nevertheless, Abu Nuwar acknowledged that Syrians could benefit from training provided by the Jordanian military, given Amman's accepted status in the West due to its alignment with NATO policies. While he accepted that Jordan might play a partial role in training, he believes overall supervision would likely fall to Turkey. Ahead of the Syrian delegation's visit, Jordan sent a delegation to Turkey, currently a key ally of the new administration in Damascus. The delegation included Jordanian Army Chief General Yusuf al-Hunaidi, Intelligence Chief Major General Ahmed Hosni, and Foreign Minister Safadi. Abu Nuwar saw this visit as strategically important for Jordan's access to Syria. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan confirmed this, saying Turkey has been in continuous coordination with Jordan since the fall of Assad's regime in Syria. However, Abu Nuwar stated that the rehabilitation of Syrian armed forces would take time. This would require time, especially to establish a structural framework for the army, particularly for HTS under Ahmed al-Shara, and to train border guards to control smuggling operations, he said. Okay. Hey, Anonymous, good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. So the changes in Syria are affecting the neighbors as well. So Iraq's not taking any chances, and Jordan is trying to step in there and take advantage of the economic situation. Meanwhile, in Syria, scores were killed as U.S. and Turkish proxies clash in northern Syria. So, we're friendly with Turkey, but our proxies aren't, apparently. About 40 militants have been killed during the most recent fierce fighting between Turkish-backed groups and U.S.-backed Kurdish forces in northern Syria, a London-based war monitor says. The so-called Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, that's the SOHR, reported fierce battles in the Manbij countryside in the past hours between the Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces and the Turkish-backed National Army factions with Turkish air cover. The attacks killed 37 people in a preliminary toll, mostly Turkish-backed combatants, but also 6 SDF militants and 5 civilians, said the British-based observatory. At least 322 people have been killed in fighting in the troubled region since armed militants led by HTS took control of Damascus following Assad's ouster. The pro-Ankara groups succeeded in capturing Kurdish-led Manbij and Tal Rifat in northern Aleppo province in recent weeks. The latest reported fighting comes despite the U.S. assuring that it was working to address Turkey's concerns in Syria to dissuade the NATO ally from escalating an offensive against Kurdish fighters. Washington's Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Wednesday that Turkey had legitimate concerns about Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK, militants inside Syria, and called for a resolution in the country that includes the departures of foreign terrorist fighters. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, that guy, in a recent interview threatened to launch an offensive against the Kurdish People's Protection Units, the YPG, in Syria, which it accuses of being aligned with the PKK. Top Turkish diplomat stressed that the ruling HTS administration in Syria must address the issue of the YPG's presence. Fidan further noted that the U.S. supported the YPG for various reasons when it was present in Syria. However, he said, many of these reasons no longer exist, adding the ultimatum we gave them, the YPG, through the Americans, is obvious. Ankara views the YPG as a terrorist organization and the Syrian branch of the outlawed PKK, which has been fighting for an autonomous region inside Turkey since 1984. Jesus. Syria's Kurds control much of the oil-rich northeast of the country where they enjoyed de facto autonomy. For years, the U.S. policy has relied on collaborating with Kurdish militants in northern Syria with a goal of maintaining some leverage over the future of the conflict. Donald Trump earlier admitted on more than one occasion that American forces were in the Arab country for its oil. Turkey, which shares a 911-kilometer long frontier with Syria, has been a main backer of opposition groups aiming to topple Assad since 2011. Turkey has mounted multiple operations against the SDF since 2016, while Turkish officials have strongly rejected claims of any involvement in the anti-government campaign that led to Assad's fall. Observers believe that the offensive, which appears to be aligned with Turkey's longtime goals, could not have gone ahead without Ankara's without their consent. In southwestern Syria, Israeli forces detained a Syrian lawyer and a French journalist in Quneitra province, as well as a team of journalists confiscating cameras and other equipment. The lawyer was identified as Mohammed Fayyad, a local resident, while the French journalist was named Sylvain Mercadia. Mercadia had recently written an article about Israeli attacks in Quneitra and its attacks on the local population. The journalists were detained by Israel despite clearly wearing vests indicating their status as members of the press. That doesn't mean anything anymore. If anything, if you got press on you, it might as well be a bullseye. Following the fall of Assad last month, Israel, which has occupied the Syrian Golan Heights since 1967, invaded a UN-patrolled buffer zone in southwest Syria, taking over the Syrian control of Mount Hermon, as well as a number of Syrian towns and villages. And you know all that stuff there about all the different territories that Israel is claiming over there. Meanwhile, HTS is like, we don't want any problems, you know. Maybe if we're just nice. Meanwhile, you know, Chad recently, the French are leaving Africa, which is great. The colonizers are leaving, but and I'm not necessarily saying this is in the wake of it, but this is happening at the same time. There was an armed attack on Chad's presidential complex, and 19 were killed. Make this a little bigger here. We can do that. In a violent confrontation in Chad, at least 19 people have died after security forces intervened to stop armed fighters from attacking the presidential complex in N'Djamena. That's what we're calling it. The government reported that 18 of the 24 attackers were killed during the failed raid on the president's office on Wednesday evening, with one security officer also losing his life in the battle. The country's foreign minister reassured the public that soldiers were protecting the president and that the situation was under control. Residents in N'Djamena reported hearing multiple gunshots for several minutes near the presidential compound. 18 attackers were killed and 6 others sustained injuries, while we experienced 1 fatality and 3 injuries, one of which is serious, stated Chad's foreign minister and government spokesperson Abdurrahman Koulamala. Shortly after the incident, Koulamala appeared in a video flanked by soldiers with a firearm at his side, asserting, "The situation is entirely under control. The attempt to destabilize has been thwarted." This assault coincided with an official visit from China's foreign minister Wang Yi to Chad. Just hours before the violence erupted, Wang Yi had engaged with Chad's president Mahamat Idris Deby and other high-ranking officials. Koulamala confirmed that Deby was in the presidential complex during the attack. Zakaria Daoud, a local resident, expressed concerns about the security situation in a region known for its frequent coups. Footage from the area showed military vehicles and heavily armed troops patrolling the streets and stationed around the presidential palace. Foreign Affairs Minister Abdurrahman Koulamala, appearing in a Facebook Live broadcast alongside soldiers, stated the situation is completely under control. There is no fear. He emphasized their commitment to defending the president. This incident occurred roughly a week after parliamentary elections aimed at restoring democracy, which were boycotted by the main opposition. The election results are still pending, and analysts believe the outcome may strengthen President Deby Itno's hold on power. Deby Itno came to power as a military leader following the death of his father, who ruled for 30 years during a conflict with the rebels in 2021. He was elected president last year in a vote that international observers deemed lacking in credibility. Yes. Finally, we haven't talked much about Voldemort Zelensky. They don't have elections over there since the war happened. So, now we have the war. You can't have elections. You can't have democracy. We're in a war. What are you talking about? So Zelensky threatens chief political rival with criminal charges. How shocking. Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky could press criminal charges against former Army Commander-in-Chief Valery Zaluzhny, who said he decided to run for the presidency, Kiev-based Telegraph reported on Wednesday. Zelensky has refused to hold elections or leave office after he canceled a vote scheduled for May of last year, citing the conflict with Russia. A new election date has yet to be set. According to Telegraph, Zelensky has already decided to run in the next election, with the earliest possible date being May 2025. The timing depends on developments in the conflict and whether U.S. President-elect Donald Trump manages to mediate. With a trust rating of 52%, Zelensky still has a chance to win. However, Zelensky's chances plunge if Zaluzhny, who is currently Kiev's ambassador to the UK and is considered the Ukrainian leader's main rival, enters the race. Zelensky is reportedly using a carrot and stick strategy to dissuade Zaluzhny from running. His administration is said to have offered the former general the top spot in Zelensky's party and the role of parliamentary speaker if he agrees to back the sitting leader. If Zaluzhny runs for president, however, he could face criminal investigations, including a probe into the 2022 fall of the city of Kherson to Russian forces, the outlet reported. Sources suggested that Zaluzhny's name could be tied to the case at a politically opportune moment. The entire Kherson region voted to join Russia in a referendum in autumn 2022, but the city itself was later abandoned by Russian forces. The defense ministry cited a strategic regrouping and logistical issues as the reasons for the withdrawal. Zaluzhny has not disclosed his political intentions, telling Telegraph, "First, we preserve the state, then we talk politics." One member of former Ukrainian President Pyotr Poroshenko's team described him as a mythic figure for many, an ordinary man embodying the national spirit. Zelensky's trust rating has dropped from 90% at the start of the conflict in 2022 to 52% in December last year. According to the Kiev International Institute of Sociology, the decline has come amid battlefield setbacks and a controversial mobilization campaign. Also, Russia is kicking their ass with better weapons and more people. Russia has stated that peace talks with Zelensky will only be possible if he wins an election to restore his legitimacy. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said the only legitimate power in Ukraine right now is the parliament and its speaker. Ooh. Look at him throwing shade. He's throwing that shade. Yes, he is. So in our propaganda watch, is this really news? But, you know, as an army that's supposed to be the most moral army in the world. What's up, Yipper? Good to see you. They're supposed to be the most moral army in the world, but what's this? Oh wait, what's
sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets they are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
The fat fingers there. Israel to hide identity of soldiers amid war crimes probes. But I thought they were doing God's work or whatever, what the Bible says. The Israeli military has decided to hide the identity of its soldiers amid efforts by pro-Palestinian organizations to have Israeli soldiers investigated for war crimes while traveling abroad. Under the new policy, combat troops will now have their faces blurred and names hidden in any interviews they give to the media. Soldiers will also not be linked to a specific incident in Gaza. I wonder what that is. Only senior officers above the rank of brigadier general will have their faces and names shown. Interesting. The new policy does not deal with the main source of evidence of IDF soldiers committing war crimes, which is their own social media's posts. An Israeli soldier recently fled Brazil after a Brazilian court ordered an investigation into him for potential war crimes based on social media posts that showed the destruction of Palestinian homes. The charges against the IDF soldier who fled Brazil were brought forward by the Hind Rajab Foundation, named after a 5-year-old girl killed by the IDF in Gaza. The foundation and other pro-Palestinian groups have filed 50 complaints in courts around the world against Israeli soldiers. According to the Times of Israel, the Israeli military has done little to stop soldiers from sharing such content online, besides advising against it. Amid the global campaign against IDF soldiers, Israeli media published a guide to avoid being arrested overseas, which also advised against the social media posts. Or maybe, I'm just kind of spitballing here, maybe don't do evil. Maybe that's probably the best. Instead of trying to hide your tracks, maybe don't make the tracks at all and be better people about it. But, that's not going to happen. London's Met Police blocked Palestine march after chief rabbi and MPs intervene. So, UK being the cucks that they are. The Metropolitan Police has blocked a pro-Palestine coalition from marching in London from the BBC headquarters to Whitehall on Saturday, January 18th. That's a week from tomorrow. Officials previously approved the route proposed by the activists in November, but reversed course after political pressure. Really? Pro-Israel groups, MPs, and peers reportedly urged Met Commissioner Mark Rowley to order the rally to be rerouted. An organizer of the march told Middle East Eye that the police informed them in December that Chief Rabbi Ephraim Mirvis had made representations to them. Mirvis confirmed in December that he was in talks with the police about the march. The rabbi has consistently endorsed Israel's war on Gaza and slammed the British government for its partial ban on arms exports to Israel in September. Oh, really? There was a 5-alarm Bronx apartment fire today? Oh, wow. I hope Lucy's okay. I hope that wasn't one of her. I'm not surprised, though. He accused the Met of failing to keep the Jewish community safe by allowing the rally to take place near 2 synagogues. The original route for the march was publicly announced on November 30th by a coalition which includes the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, the Muslim Association of Britain, the Palestinian Forum in Britain, and Friends of Al-Aqsa, among other groups. Its stated reason for starting the protest outside BBC headquarters was to protest against the pro-Israel bias of its coverage. According to a statement by the coalition on Wednesday evening, the route had been agreed with the police before then. The coalition said that the reason the police gave for the new decision opposing the route is that our march would cause disruption to a nearby synagogue. The Met said on Wednesday that the protests risked causing serious disruption and that they were hopeful that the PSC, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, will now alter their plans in light of our position. But the coalition insisted that the closest synagogue to the BBC is not even on the route of the march. Moreover, as the Met Police have acknowledged, there has not been a single incident of any threat to a synagogue attached to any of the marches. The coalition said that representatives of its Jewish bloc had written to the police seeking a meeting over concerns that the police are choosing to listen solely to pro-Israel Jewish voices. Wait, are you talking about the defenders of empire are choosing to listen to the pro-Israel Jewish voices and not the pro-Palestine? What the? Andrew Gilbert, vice president of the pro-Israel Board of Deputies of British Jews, told the Jewish Chronicle the board have been working with the police and the Jewish community on the routes of the marches and appreciate the detailed work by the police and believe that this clarity from them is an important step forward. The pro-Palestinian coalition said any suggestion that our marches are somehow hostile to Jewish people ignores the fact that every march has been joined by thousands of Jewish people, many in an organized Jewish bloc, and addressed by Jewish speakers on the demonstration platforms. Well, see, that's the thing. You're scaring the wrong Jews. That's what it is. See, you're not scaring the right Jews. We firmly reject any attempt to suppress our right to campaign for an end to Israel's genocidal violence and decades-long violations of the rights of the Palestinian people. Adnan Hamidan, acting chairman of the Palestinian Forum in Britain, said the police appeared unable to withstand pressure from pro-Israel groups. Their concerns are based on false assumptions with no factual basis. It is unacceptable for the police to suppress the legitimate right to protest against such atrocities by giving in to baseless fears and fabricated threats. It's money on high, too. It's all money on high that's doing this. You know, and Britain is a cuck to power. They're Keir Starmer's not ruling that place. It's the oligarchs who control Britain and other places in the West as well. So speaking of throwing shade earlier, Trump had posted a you think he's super big buddies with Bibi and Israel, right? But this is from where is this from? Well, no, it's from the Libertarian Institute. This is okay. So Kyle Anzalone and Will Porter wrote this. Trump posts video slamming Netanyahu U.S. Middle East policy. See, I don't know what Trump's doing. I think Trump is playing both sides against each other, just like he does everything else. President-elect Donald Trump shared a video in which Columbia Professor Jeffrey Sachs sharply criticized U.S. Middle East policy and accused Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of helping to lead the U.S. into endless wars in the region. In the video posted without comment to Trump's Truth Social account on Tuesday, Sachs said Netanyahu is a deep, dark son of a bitch who led the U.S. into multiple follies in the Middle East and now wants America to fight a war with Iran on Israel's behalf. Netanyahu had, from 1995 onward, the theory that the only way we're going to get rid of Hamas and Hezbollah is by toppling the governments that supports them. That's Iraq, Iran, and Syria. The guy is nothing if not obsessive, the professor said. He's gotten us into endless wars, and because of the power of all this in U.S. politics, he's gotten his way. In 2002, Netanyahu gave an address to Congress to help sell Americans on the invasion of Iraq. If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region, the prime minister said at the time. And I think that people sitting right next door in Iran, young people, and many others will say the time of such regimes, of such despots, is gone. The Iraq war would result in hundreds of thousands of murdered Iraqi civilians, thousands of dead Americans, trillions of dollars wasted, and a government in Baghdad more aligned with Tehran than ever. Additionally, the power and security vacuum created by Saddam's ouster led to the rise of al-Qaeda in Iraq and later the group's uglier, more violent iteration, the Islamic State. As of 2019, a majority of Americans believe the war in Iraq was not worth fighting and a mistake. After U.S. neocons deposed Saddam, the Iraqi people elected a Shiite-led government that favored strong ties with Tehran, a result directly at odds with Netanyahu's predictions. Washington and its Middle East allies then became concerned that there existed a Shiite crescent in the region stretching from Iran through Iraq and Syria to Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. The resulting policy shift, as outlined in Seymour Hersh's key 2007 piece, The Redirection, has put the U.S. on the path to direct confrontation with the Islamic Republic and done little to reduce Tehran's broader influence in the region. Professor Sachs explained that President Barack Obama then ordered the CIA to launch an operation that supported Sunni militant groups attempting to overthrow President Bashar al-Assad in Syria. At the time, the Defense Intelligence Agency internally warned that the CIA's support for jihadist factions could result in the creation of an Salafist principality, effectively predicting the rise of the ISIS caliphate. Sachs' criticisms of American interventionism and Israeli influence on U.S. politics have resulted in attacks from high-ranking officials in Tel Aviv, with Diaspora Affairs Minister Amichai Chikli saying Sachs belonged to a group of fringe Holocaust deniers, conspiracy theorists, and blood libel enthusiasts who oppose the state of Israel. In the video, a 2-minute compilation of a longer interview posted by Wall Street Apes, Sachs slams the U.S. media for failing to cover the CIA's support for the extremists fighting to topple Assad, noting the New York Times had only mentioned the operation dubbed Timber Sycamore a total of 3 times. Despite his apparent endorsement of the critical views expressed in the clip, Trump has labeled himself as Israel's best friend and repeatedly promised to increase U.S. support for the Jewish state after he returns to the White House. See, that's the thing about Trump. You're not going to know what Trump's going to do till he does it. And then you're like, why the fuck did you do that? Last year there were all the protests at the college campuses, particularly the one at NYU. Well, there was one at Columbia, but there was one at NYU, and now they're issuing suspensions. So NYU issues 1-year suspensions over peaceful sit-ins for Gaza. Staff says, yeah, this is nice. I thought we were supposed to go there for education. Almost a dozen students have been suspended for a year from NYU for participating in nonviolent anti-war protests for Gaza last month, a pro-Palestine group of staff members have said. NYU Faculty and Staff for Justice in Palestine, that's NYU FSJP, wrote in a press release that the notices went out on Wednesday, suspending 11 students until January next year. Oh, no, January 2026. Well, that is next year. Okay. The group, I'm still getting used to 2025. The group called it a draconian case of collective punishment. Those suspended thus far include students who participated in a sit-in in front of the administration offices on the 12th floor of BOP's library, and those who simply sat in the lobby of the library in solidarity. The sit-in was to demand a meeting with administration officials regarding disclosure of and divestment from institutional investments in Israel, the statement read. 2 NYU faculty members were also arrested during those sit-ins in December, despite the American Association of University Professors saying they were not involved in the protest itself, but were there to ensure the safety of the student demonstrators. 3 faculty members were informed at the time that they had been declared persona non grata by the school's security. The move rendered them unable to enter any university buildings, including their own classrooms. This week, the Office of Student Conduct at NYU told the students they are being punished for holding a protest, which produced a significant disruptive impact during a particularly critical time. Oh, because that's what they're supposed to do. NYU FSJ insisted the sit-ins can only be described as minor disruptions of distributing flyers and chanting for 15 minutes, and were intended to highlight the much more significant disruption of teaching, learning, and scholarship that has taken place in Gaza. The group cites the resolution passed earlier this week by the American Historical Association, in which it voted 428 to 88 to approve a resolution opposing scholasticide in Gaza, as well as the U.S. funding of Israel's 15-month-long assault on the enclave. Over 46,000 Palestinians have been killed in the war on Gaza, thousands still missing. The university administrators said the suspensions are related to threatening messages found in the library the same day the sit-ins took place. But the group said there's no evidence connecting the protesting students to the graffiti. Of course, the graffiti, that's an agent provocateur was doing that shit to make them look bad. NYU also accused the protesting students of engaging in coordinated and collective disruptive events, but the group maintained that designing, printing, and disseminating flyers, as well as students disguising their identities by wearing masks, are not violations of the university's code of conduct. The punishments in this case are dramatically more severe than those issued over the past 15 months, the group statement said. The extreme sanctions placed on all of the students charged with participating in the protest can only be explained as a complete collapse in any kind of due process, and instead the arbitrary meting out of collective punishment regardless of the actions of any individual student, the group said. They characterized the move from the administration as using guilt by association as a dangerous smear tactic to delegitimize the student movement. There was swift backlash on social media as critics slammed the suspensions. Sydney-based sociology professor Amanda Wise called the move an extraordinary repression of legitimate political speech. Who is this McCarthyist repression of students serving? Asked Catherine Bluine, a professor at the University of Toronto. Writer Layla Saliba called for an academic boycott. Former and current students and staff are now calling on supporters to sign a petition for the suspensions to be revoked and for the administration to meet student organizations at the negotiating table. So they're still fucking with the college students there. But a Quaker group is taking action, apparently with the New York Times. As a Quaker group cancels planned ads with New York Times for failure to refer to Israel, to Israeli genocide. A U.S.-based Quaker organization working for peace and social justice announced they would be canceling their planned advertising with the New York Times after the outlet refused to allow an ad referring to Israel's genocide in Gaza. The American Friends Service Committee, AFSC, a Quaker-founded organization established in 1917 to assist civilian victims of the First World War, made the statement Wednesday. The original planned ad, which was rejected, read, "Tell Congress to stop arming Israel's genocide in Gaza now. As a Quaker organization, we work for peace. Join us. Tell the President and Congress to stop the killing and starvation in Gaza." Joyce Ajlouni, the general secretary of the organization, slammed the decision and described it as an outrageous attempt to sidestep the truth. Palestinians and allies have been silenced and marginalized in the media for decades as these institutions choose silence over accountability. It is only by challenging this reality that we can hope to forge a path toward a more just and equitable world. This comes as Israel's war in Gaza, ongoing for over 14 months, has killed over 46,000 people. According to the AFSC, a representative from the New York Times advertising team suggested they use the word war instead of genocide, which they said is a word with an entirely different meaning, both colloquially and under international law. Yeah, war and genocide. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and other rights groups have carried out investigations which determined that Israel was carrying out genocide in Gaza. The ICJ issued a provisional ruling which found evidence that Israel's actions in Gaza amounted to plausible genocide. However, the New York Times ad acceptability team reportedly sent an email stating that various international bodies, human rights organizations, and governments have differing views on the situation. Well, they're paying for the ad. Let them put whatever the fuck they want on there. What's up, CBC voter? Good to see you. Lane Mullet, Director of Media Relations for AFSC, called the reasoning absurd, adding that they advertise a wide variety of products and advocacy messages on which there are differing views. Why is it not acceptable to publicize the meticulously documented atrocities committed by Israel and paid for by the United States? That's a very good question. The group has been supporting aid efforts in Gaza since 1948, when the Israeli state was founded, causing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians to flee or be killed at the hands of Zionist militias. They also have staff in Gaza, Ramallah, and Jerusalem, and regularly pressure the Biden administration to agree on a ceasefire deal and further access to emergency aid in the Strip. Our ad campaign aims to shed light on these atrocities while urging people in the U.S. to pressure the president and Congress to halt weapon shipments to Israel and advocate for an end to the genocide. Ajlouni continued, adding their staff in Gaza witnessed daily horrors. Cato Petter, the media officer for Quakers in Britain, told the New Arab that while they are a separate organization to AFSC, we uphold the right to speak out on their discerned positions. Quakers in Britain affirmed in October last year that there is a plausible risk that the Israeli government is committing genocide in Gaza in alignment with the ICJ rulings on Israel and occupied Palestine. A statement from them added, the group is responsible for the management of the ecumenical accompaniment program in Palestine and Israel in the UK and Ireland on behalf of 17 human rights organizations. Online, many praised the Quakers for their decision, with some calling it a principled stance. They have a school in Ramallah older than the first Zionist Congress. They know what they are talking about, one person wrote. I salute the integrity of the Quakers, another commented, while another said, the Quakers were among the first to mobilize against the slave trade. Good to see their moral compass is still working 300 years later. Quakerism has its roots in Christianity and believes firmly in peace and justice. In the UK, the group started in 1643 and became closely associated with pacifism, advocating for peace and rejecting violence. Another key belief Quakers hold is that people can feel the inner light or voice of God themselves without needing a priest or Bible. How about that? Over time, they have campaigned for social justice movements and the rights of the incarcerated. They have also historically been part of efforts to mediate conflicts and refuse to fight in wars. Regarding Israel's ongoing war in Gaza, the Quakers in Britain issued a statement saying the scale of the violence and harm to civilians is unprecedented and unlike anything in living memory. Hospitals, schools, places of worship, roads, and homes have been decimated, and civilians have been targeted. They also promoted vigils and protests around the UK in support of the plight of Palestinians and penned many statements and open letters to MPs and rights groups. Yeah. So the Quakers, you're like, man, I thought it was just oatmeal. No, man, it's more than oatmeal. Come on. Quaker oats, come on. I know some people are like me. They're like, wait, I don't know anything about Quakers. But yeah, they're a very peaceful group. And, more and more of these groups are coming out and calling out Israel as the genocidal pieces of shit that they are. I'm going to butcher this name, as I do all names, and I apologize, but our last story here, Abdulrahman al-Qaradawi's Twitter social media account shut down after UAE deportation. You may have heard about this story. The social media account on Twitter of Egyptian poet and activist Abdulrahman al-Qaradawi has been closed following his extradition to the UAE from Lebanon. Quakers has gotten too sugary. Stop it. Stop it. Al-Qaradawi was handed over to the UAE after the Lebanese cabinet issued an extradition order despite growing fears that he could be subjected to abuse or torture in the Gulf state. The fears intensified when his profile was taken down, with users questioning whether the account was deliberately removed after his deportation or if it was taken down by the platform itself. According to al-Qaradawi's lawyer, Mohammed Sablo, the poet was detained by Lebanese authorities on December 28th at the Masna border crossing after he returned from a trip to Syria. The detention was based on an arrest warrant issued by Egyptian authorities. Just days later, on December 30th, the UAE issued its own request for his detention. Human Rights Watch has condemned the extradition, saying that al-Qaradawi will almost certainly face an unfair trial in the UAE with significant risks of torture or abuse. The arrest stems from a social media post made by al-Qaradawi during his visit to Syria, in which he criticized the UAE's government. However, HRW's investigation into the post found that it does not constitute a crime under an international law. Despite this, the Lebanese government moved forward with the extradition, prompting widespread concerns about the violation of both international norms and Lebanon's sovereignty. Al-Qaradawi is neither a citizen nor a resident of the UAE and was not present in the UAE when the alleged offenses occurred. Ramzi Kais, a Lebanon researcher at HRW, expressed outrage over the arbitrary deportation, claiming deporting a poet to the UAE simply for peacefully expressing his views on social media undermines Lebanon's rule of law. The decision to extradite someone for criticizing another government sends a dangerous message that Lebanon will tolerate violations of human rights to appease powerful Gulf states, even without any proof of a crime. Sandbloom confirmed that he had appealed the government's deportation decision before Lebanon's State Shura Council, the country's highest administrative court, on January 8th. However, the Lebanese authorities proceeded with the deportation without waiting for the court's verdict. Hey, fuck it, we're just going to send him up. Al-Qaradawi's case has sparked a wider debate about cross-border repression, particularly as the UAE has faced accusations of silencing dissent. Emirati human rights activists have expressed grave concerns about the poet's fate, fearing that he will face torture or even enforced disappearance upon arrival in the UAE. Hamad al-Shamsi, an Emirati rights activist, condemned the Lebanese decision as an example of cross-border repression, while academic Ibrahim al-Haram, an outspoken critic of the UAE government, warned that it sets a dangerous precedent for activists and dissidents in the region. Al-Haram described the decision as an unjust move that blatantly disregards international legal standards, especially given the UAE's notorious record of human rights violations. There are real fears of Abdulrahman al-Qaradawi's life and well-being. The UAE has a long history of arbitrarily detaining and torturing critics, particularly those linked to the Arab Spring uprisings, Al-Haram told Arabi 21. This decision is emblematic of how the UAE uses its influence to suppress dissent, often leveraging financial and political power to silence voices that challenge the status quo, regardless of the human cost, right? And that's where we are, right? Not just here, but around the world. People are worried about the posts that we're making, and, you know, what was it? AOC said to that words were violence. That's the thing. Words were violence. Are words violence? I don't know. Maybe violence is violence. I'm pretty sure that's the thing. Well, folks, all your misery and pain and suffering of watching this show today, it's all going to pay off, because we're going to give you some news you can use. And I think you deserve to have some sort of happiness in your life. And one of the things that will help you with that is pooping. Pooping, turns out pooping is good for your brain. Using the toilet before mental tests improves performance, according to a new study. And there's a poop doctor there. We're not going to talk to the poop doctor. When preparing for a big test or athletic event, try to take a load off. Or a load out. Or take a loaf off. How about that? A new small study. Why you gotta call it small? Why you gotta say that? Teeny tiny thingy. A new small study found that triathletes perform better on a cognitive test that simulates the experience of rapid decision-making in sports when they pooped beforehand. The 13 participants took the Stroop test. It should be the poop test. 3 times a week apart. The first time without pooping beforehand. The second time an hour after going to the bathroom. And the third time with the help of a magnesium oxide laxative. That sounds like a party drug to me. Stroop test performance was improved in all 100%, 13 out of 13 of the participants after magnesium-induced defecation, and most 69%, nice, 9 out of 13 of the participants after non-magnesium-induced defecation, the international team of researchers wrote in the new issue of the Sports Medicine and Health Science Journal. In the Stroop test, participants were presented with color words printed in different ink colors, like red written in green ink, and told to quickly name the color, like so, right? Only it was like this. The study authors used the results to measure their selective attention and mental judgment. The researchers previously found that going number 2 greatly improved cycling performance and increased blood supply to the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain where decisions are made. They used this study to show that pooping gives your body more energy to spend on cognition and exercise intensity. They linked better performance on the Stroop test to a significant increase in oxygen consumption in the area below the belly button post-poop. There was less of an effect on the prefrontal brain. The researchers theorized that the enteric nervous system surrounding the rectum may play a role in immediate cognitive tasks by sending signals to the brain based on conditions in the gut. This describes what's commonly known as a gut feeling, right? Was it relax the ass, sharpen the mind, poop quiz? What's this? Unless you have shit for brains. No, that's the thing. The shit comes out. I think that's what it is. If you have shit for brains, then it comes out in the poop, and then all of a sudden you're brilliant, right? I've heard of mental blockages, but I've never heard of rectal blockages when it comes to ideas and trying to, I tried to write a book once and I got stuck. So, but I never pooped since then. So maybe if I poop, I'll be able to do that. I don't know what I'm talking about. I think I'm just making up shit at this point. Guys and gals and all our other pals, I think that's it for us for the news portion of this. Damn, another 3 hours. Jesus, almost. Don't forget, tomorrow night, we're going to be doing this silly, nutty shit as yeah, we're getting ready for the Saturday night, and it's me and the chicken and some silly shit, not brain shit, but just like regular like fun stuff, videos, that kind of thing. Just kick back, take your mind off of shit that makes you crazy the rest of the time. So that's gonna be tomorrow night, midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. West Coast time. Should be fun. I just want to say this week I had a blast with Angie Moon on Wednesday. Just want to say thanks to her for coming on, and her book Crime of the Century. It is it's on shelves now, so you can go get it if you want to get it. If you want to see about all these different rock and roll people, rock and rollers involved in these crimes, some of the more infamous crimes. It's fascinating stuff. I highly recommend that you get that. Just check out Angie Moon, Crime of the Century. I think she's selling her book all over the place. It's on Amazon, but she's also selling it on her website as well. Anything else? Today is Friday, so so we'll do a secret show tomorrow night. I'm still working out. I don't know what's going on with the gaming. I don't understand. It's probably something I need to work out over the weekend, but the gaming will be back at some point when it actually works. Right now, whenever I turn the game on, for some reason, that and the little streaming program I'm using here don't seem to want to talk to each other very well. So we'll make it work. Otherwise, this show will be back on Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, 8 a.m. Pacific time. If you're new to all this business and you like it, give us a like, share it out, subscribe. That would be great too. If you want to donate to the show, our links are down below in the description. We got like the Cash App, Venmo and stuff, Zelle, but we also got, you can become a Patreon. You can do it $1 a month. You get your name in lights and all that good stuff. Fun stuff, and you really be helping out the show. And if you can't do anything financially, if you could share out those links, that would help me out a bunch too. Tell your friends. If you don't have any friends, be a better person and get some friends, because you probably need them here. And once we go into the real apocalypse. Thank you, everybody. I love each and every one of you. I hope that you're safe. Like I said, check out the links down below too for Kevin Sandbloom, our buddy from Black Bear News, who lost his house in one of the fires out there in Los Angeles. So if you could donate to him, every little bit helps. And like I said, again, if you can't donate financially, if you can share out the links, that would help too. He's a good guy, and I hate to see somebody like that who's been pushing out a lot of good information about the environment and other things around the world. He's a good source for information. We hate to see shit like that happen to our pals. We hate to see that happen to anybody, but especially our pals here in this space too. So make sure you're supporting them. And so otherwise, I'll see y'all tomorrow night for the secret show. I hope you have a great one. Take care of yourselves. Love each other. Don't have hate in your heart. Hate only hurts yourself. Don't join the cults. Use your critical thinking skills. Think for yourself. Be an individualist that knows how to work with people. That's a good thing to do. We'll see you next time. Peace.
This is City Alpha 5! Woo!
Soon.